What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 10 SP Invincible Chapter 226 Ichimaru Jin ignored Aizen's question directly. He made a yawning gesture, and then he answered casually, "Oh, Vice Captain Aizen, you have so many questions, you know I'm going to kill you." The moment these words fell, Ichimaru Jin's eyes burst out with fierce murderous intent. It seems that things like killing people have become a matter of course. With Ichimaru Jin's words, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became solemn. "Silver, you really are." Hearing his answer, there was a gentle smile on Aizen's slightly stern face, and a satisfied expression under the black-rimmed glasses. Obvious. Aizen and Ichimaru Jin almost thought of going together. But, after a moment of silence, Ichimaru Jin pursed his lips, and then put his hands on his chin and asked, "Vice Captain Aizen, regarding Captain Urahara's research, from the phenomena I observed before, it must be an undisclosed taboo research. This is what you want me to investigate, right?" "That's right." Aizen nodded noncommittally. The lights placed on the wooden table reflected on his face, flickering and flickering. For Ichimaru Jin's delicate thoughts, 580 Aizen silently praised him. He really deserves to be a confidant who has been cultivated by himself. He was not disappointed at all. "Then I understand." Ichimaru Jin stood up, stretched his waist, and then waved at Aizen. "It's getting late, Aizen Vice Captain, if there is nothing else, then I will go back first." "Go, Silver, remember not to reveal your whereabouts. I hope you can bring me good news." Aizen nodded silently, watching Ichimaru Jin walk towards the door. But before leaving, he reminded him again, for fear that Ichimaru Jin would make a mistake. After the handover between the two, Ichimaru Jin waved his back and left Aizen's house in the dark. In the middle of the night, the sky was pitch black, and it looked so dignified. There seemed to be an aura of conspiracy hidden in this darkness, as if it indicated that some kind of accident was about to happen. Time flies. As the night faded, it was the next day in a blink of an eye. Dawn spread from the horizon. Go Day 13, BBCF, was just like usual. The different teams were still busy with their own affairs. As for Aizen's goal, the 12th Division, because the subordinate is the Technology Development Bureau, it is of course busier than other divisions. In addition to team affairs, the members and chief executives of the 12th Squad should devote more energy to the research of the Technology Development Bureau. But no one expected that something bad would happen tonight. On this day, Urahara Kazuki, the captain of the 12th Squad, was invited by the nobles of Shihouin, and left the squadron to attend a banquet at Shihouin's mansion. As his right-hand man, Kuretsuchi Mayuri, who also serves as the deputy director, of course showed his face. Hiyori Sarupe, who was the vice captain, was dissatisfied with Kuretsuchi Mayuri for stealing his limelight, and decided to go with him after a lot of clamor. Just like that, all three of them left the 12th Division team building by accident. The biggest hidden danger in Aizen's eyes has become no threat now. Late at night. In the dead of night, the 12th Division team building was peaceful. When walking in the aisle, you could often hear the sound of rumbling machines. In the darkness, a thin and small figure set off from the team building of the 5th team along the way, and quietly approached the team building of the 12th team along the long corridor in the dark. In this quiet hour of the night, the entire 12th Squad building seemed to be enveloped in an atmosphere of tranquility. After all, after the captain, vice captain, and the three seats left one after another, this night was a rare and relaxing holiday for them. Everyone naturally relaxed their vigilance, and many team members even dared to be lazy. No one expected. Someone actually sneaked into the team building at this time. "I don't know anything. Oh my god. The people in the 12th Division are really serious. Even if most of them are scientific researchers, they wouldn't be so insensitive to Ryotsu, right? In case, it is easy to get close to the TDA building." Looking at the surrounding night and the brightly lit houses in the distance, Ichimaru Jin shook his head with disgust. This infiltration was much easier than he expected. Taking advantage of the night light, Ichimaru Jin behaved like a moving lion majesty. He quickly sneaked into the Technology Development Bureau building. Although the other floors of the building, there are still members of the 12th Squad on patrol, but Ichimaru Jin, who has figured out the secret beforehand, is targeting the secret basement. After seeing the appearance of that figure clearly, Ichimaru Jin squinted his eyes and murmured in a low voice, "This guy is the 5th seat of the 12th Squad. It's really time for him to come." All he can do is wait. As Urahara Kazuki's right-hand man, he is one of the few people in the entire 12th Squad who is authorized to freely enter and exit the underground secret room. Oops. It is estimated that Yamanaka Tianye himself did not expect it, but his unintentional return behavior just added to the flames. The person who appeared was none other than the 5th member of the 12th Division, Yamanaka Tianye. Forcibly breaking in is obviously not a good choice. Fortunately, not long after, someone actually came over. With Captain Urahara's personality, even if you go to the banquet tonight, if you break in rashly, the alarm will be sounded right away. Ichimaru Jin's eyes flickered in the corner, and he squinted his eyes and stared at the door. It's a good thing I remembered this, otherwise I wouldn't be able to remember today's progress. Yamanaka Tianye said to himself happily as he walked towards the gate. Yes. It was when we studied together during the day, and accidentally left a notebook behind. What? As for the reason for his appearance at this moment. As Ichimaru Jin expected, after Urahara Kazuki left, the underground chamber was a dark room. Therefore, he did not rush into it, but found a hidden corner and hid secretly. Chapter 227 Success. It's a good thing I remembered this, otherwise I wouldn't be able to remember today's progress. Yamanaka Tianye said to himself happily as he walked towards the gate. As a person who is passionate about scientific research, his admiration for Urahara Kazuki and Kuretsuchi Miyuri naturally reached the point of deep-seated fanaticism. And because he was full of motivation, he was promoted all the way up, and soon grew to the position of 5 seats. But Yamanaka Tianye did not expect that the crisis had quietly spread behind him. And he is still in the dark until this moment. At this time, Yamanaka Tianye came to the gate and was about to enter the password to open the gate. Pressing numbers one after another, the sound from the machine is extraordinarily loud in the dark. At this time, he was almost defenseless. After all, this scene happened countless times every day, and Yamanaka Tianye naturally would not have thought that there was a person hiding beside him. Soon, the password was entered correctly, and the door opened with a bang. Yamanaka took a deep breath, and then walked into the room unhurriedly. After scanning around, he was about to walk to his seat. Da. Just took a step or two, Yamanaka Tianye rolled his eyes, and his facial expression changed suddenly. That is because he sensed a breath coming from behind. Who? Yamanaka Tianye turned around suddenly, and the first thing that caught his eye was Ichimaru Jin, who followed and sneaked in. The thin Ichimaru Jin also sneaked into the underground secret room the moment he opened the password door. However, at this moment, his expression suddenly changed. Ichimaru Jin, who did not know when appeared behind him, was smiling and staring at him with a playful look in his eyes. The two looked at each other, and the atmosphere was very strange. You are the 3rd seed of the 5th division, Ichimaru Jin? Yamanaka's eyes widened desperately, and his words were full of disbelief. Ichimaru Jin, the well-known super genius, he has naturally heard of it often. But I never expected that Ichimaru Jin would appear suddenly, and the place where he appeared was this secret underground chamber. Tut tisk tisk. Looking at your expression, you seem surprised. In fact, there is no need for that at all. Capturing the other person's expression in his eyes, Ichimaru Jin's eyes flashed a sly look, like a fox that just sneaked. Before I die, I have to say thanks to you. After all, you helped me open this headache password door, Ichimaru Jin said while reaching out to touch his waist. Before Yamanaka Tianye could react, he had already drawn out Zanpakutō Shinso deftly, and aimed the knife point at his chest. Stop pretending. Showdown. At this moment, Ichimaru Jin's killing intent is revealed. Ichimaru Jin. What are you going to do? Yamanaka Tianye panicked, and of course he knew what Ichimaru Jin's actions meant. Killing at the Tech Development Bureau? Just kidding? However, it turns out that he was right. Ichimaru Jin is indeed planning to kill someone. So, shoot him, Shinso. Without any hesitation, Ichimaru Jin shot decisively. The moment Shikai fell from his mouth, the short dagger Zanpakutō in his hand turned into a dazzling white light and shot out, hitting Yamanaka Tianye's chest within a few seconds. Crisp, without any sloppiness, Ichimaru Jin showed the fierceness of lion majesty. Whoa! In front of Shinso's thrust, Yamanaka's body was as fragile as a blank sheet of paper. After letting out a muffled groan, his body staggered back, his eyes widened desperately while blood continued to overflow from his mouth, and he finally fell headfirst to the ground. His heart was broken and he died instantly. In less than a minute, the 5th seed of the 12th squad was killed like this. Tick-tick, blood slid down the tip of the sword, dripped onto Yamanaka's field body, and slid down his cheek to the ground. The pungent smell emitted by the blood quickly permeated the air, making Yamanaka's sudden death in the field look even more hideous. Oh my god! Are these people who are engaged in scientific research so vulnerable? They are really too weak. Looking at the dead body in the field of Yamanaka, Ichimaru Jin shook his head expressionlessly. Ask for flowers. Killing the 5th seed of the 12th squad is as easy for him as killing a chicken. Sneaking into the secret room, taking advantage of the situation to kill people, the whole process is invisible. It is both luck and timing. Of course, it is largely due to the departure of Urahara Kazuki and others. Otherwise, Ichimaru Jin would not be able to complete everything so smoothly. After killing the Yamanaka field, Ichimaru Jin ignored the corpse and glanced into the house. Within the range of sight, except for instruments of different sizes, there was no other big gain, and such a result made him frown slightly. Oh my god. Sure enough, it's as I expected. Even if you solve the trouble, it's not easy to find out the secret. Ichimaru Jin walked into the room while complaining. After coming to the interior of the underground secret room, apart from more sophisticated instruments, he had no other gains. Ichimaru Jin had to stop. It shouldn't be. I searched almost all over just now, but I didn't find any relevant data records. Could it be that Aizen guessed it? Ichimaru Jin had a puzzled expression on his face, mixed with a hint of worry. After all, he sneaked in without authorization and killed Wu Shi. Once an outsider came in at this time, his crime would be exposed. So for Ichimaru Jin, it's a race against time to find what he wants as quickly as possible. Then, for nearly half an hour, he continued to search patiently, and finally found a special notebook in a very secret corner. This notebook, with a dark luster on its surface, looks a bit old. With a curious mind, I opened the notebook and took a look, and Ichimaru Jin got the desired information as he wished. That's right. This notebook records a large number of experiments, all of which are recorded by Urahara Kazuki himself. Righteous Soul. Yike. Isolated Ryatsu's Black Cloak. Ichimaru Jin just looked at it for a while, and couldn't help but want to give a thumbs up. I have to say that Urahara Kazuki's mind and IQ are much less exaggerated than he estimated in advance. With so many wild and unconstrained inventions, it is absolutely impossible to imagine them without opening this notebook. Invincible Chapter 228 Righteous Soul. Yike. Isolated Ryatsu's Black Cloak. Holding the notebook in his hand, Ichimaru Jin just looked at it for a while, and couldn't help but want to give a thumbs up. It has to be said that Urahara Kazuki's mind and IQ are much more exaggerated than he estimated in advance. It is absolutely impossible to imagine so many inventions without opening this notebook. DJ. Although these experimental studies can be regarded as good unexpected gains, they are not what he is looking for. Because before coming here, Aizen had deliberately confessed to him that he needed to find out the records about that secret research. Obviously none of the notebooks were there. Oops. Looks like I'm going to be busy tonight. Putting down the old notebook in his hand, Ichimaru Jin showed his iconic fox smile. 100. Yansong was stupid but somewhat reluctant. People killed and searched, but they didn't find what they wanted. This result seems a bit bad. Urahara Kazuki, you really have hidden something. It seems that Aizen Vice Captain's temptation will fail. Ichimaru Jin put the notebook back in place, and then started the second round of search. But the results are still not satisfactory. After some searching, Ichimaru Jin still found nothing. Seeing that more than half of the time has passed, after careful weighing, Ichimaru Jin decided to leave here. After all, he is an outsider, and he doesn't know when Urahara Kazuki and the others will come back. If the other party mentions turning back, his whereabouts will be exposed. However, just as Ichimaru Jin was about to walk out of the room as if nothing had happened, a familiar figure appeared in front of him. Silver. How did you appear here? A familiar voice, a familiar figure. The moment I saw this figure, Ichimaru Jin's facial expression changed suddenly. Everything happened as it happened at the beginning. Yamanaka Tianye had the same expression when he saw him. Because Ichimaru Jin saw the person he was most familiar with, Ling Yun. That's right, at some point, Ling Yun's figure suddenly came out from the darkness, and the white captain's haori draped over his body emitted a layer of pure white light under the soft moonlight. The appearance of Ling Yun suddenly made the atmosphere strange, as if the air had also stagnated. The two looked at each other face to face. Isn't this Captain Ling Yun? If it was in the past, Ichimaru Jin would definitely not have this tone, and there is a high probability that he would take the initiative to joke. At this moment, he was very restless. Regardless of the speed of speaking or the volume of speaking, Ichimaru Jin's words are very reluctant, and he can even obviously feel panicked. Silver. I should be asking you this question, right? Ling Yun frowned slightly. In fact, as soon as he walked into the corridor, he could smell the strong and pungent smell of blood floating in the air. Sure enough, as soon as he walked into this underground secret room, Ling Yun saw a corpse, the Yamanaka field who had been killed. Then came the appearance of Ichimaru Jin. So regarding everything that happened here, Ling Yun was far more puzzled than the other party. Murder? And still kill here? Thinking of this, Ling Yun looked at Ichimaru Jin with a more complicated expression. Stared at by Ling Yun's eyes, Ichimaru Jin instinctively took a step back, showing a little unnatural expression on his face. The two looked at each other, and they remained in a stalemate, as if there was a stream of condensed air passing between their eyes. A few seconds later, perhaps afraid of Ling Yun's power, Ichimaru Jin shrugged helplessly. Immediately afterwards, he sighed, looked at Yamanaka Tianye's body, and confessed, Captain Ling Yun, I know what you were thinking. I admit that people are murdered. Why? Why kill people? Ling Yun couldn't help but increase his tone of voice. Yamanaka Tianye, the 5th seat of the 12th Division, had contacted him more than once beforehand, and the two had had pleasant exchanges. But never expected that such an honest man would be killed in the Technology Development Bureau building? More importantly, the one who killed him turned out to be Ichimaru Jin. Without any hesitation, without any lies, Ichimaru Jin voluntarily admitted, Captain Ling Yun, actually Aizen entrusted me to come here to inquire and collect Urahara Kazuki's research secrets. As for why he killed people, Ichimaru Jin paused, his eyes fell on the corpse, and then he spread his hands helplessly, who made him break in suddenly, otherwise I wouldn't have suddenly it's the killer. Ling Yun fell silent after listening. Aizen, sure enough, it was Aizen who did it. He glanced at the corpse, rubbed the center of his brows with a headache, and showed a light smile. Silver, Aizen really couldn't hold back, but all this is in line with my expectations, and after hearing these words, Ichimaru Jin's pupils shrank suddenly. With a shocked expression on his face and a strong questioning tone, He asked back, Captain Ling Yun, what do you mean by these words? Did you know Aizen's intentions from the very beginning? If not, Ling Yun looked at Ichimaru Jin calmly. The smile on the corner of his mouth gradually deepened, and he explained calmly. Aizen's tricks are actually those, such as using Zanpakutō's ability to hide in the dark, and use it to secretly observe. Do you think I don't know about the daily situation of the 12th squad? Ichimaru Jin was silent again. This time he even broke out in a cold sweat. As Ling Yun said just now, these are Aizen's daily behaviors, and he himself knows it well. Unexpectedly, Ling Yun knows 4.5 in the palm of his hand. Before Ichimaru Jin calmed down, Ling Yun then asked, Silver, if you insist on going deeper, Aizen must have cheated Go Day 13, right? What's the meaning? Ichimaru Jin frowned hesitantly. Kyoka Suigetsu, Aizen's Zanpakutō, is not actually a flowing water Zanpakutō as he claims. Shikai's ability is naturally a lie. Using the refraction of light to cause enemies to kill each other, is this Aizen's unilateral explanation? In fact, its real ability should be hypnosis. Ichimaru Jin nodded. That's right, Kyoka Suigetsu's power is an ability that can make the enemy hallucinate. It's just that there seems to be no way to crack this ability. Invincible Chapter 229. The conversation between the two continued in the dark. After hearing Ichimaru Jin's words, Ling Yun couldn't help expressing emotion. Aizen, it is indeed more difficult than imagined, but this time is an excellent opportunity. How to say? Ichimaru Jin narrowed his eyes. The relationship between him and Ling Yun is not only a teacher and a friend, but also a common stand. Therefore, hearing what Ling Yun said, Ichimaru Jin immediately became interested. Ling Yun continued to explain. Silver, didn't you just say that Aizen asked you to come and investigate the secret of Urahara Kazuki? Then you can just take this information back. Captain Ling Yun, what do you mean? After hearing these words, deep in Ichimaru Jin's heart, a turbulent sea suddenly set off. His pupils shrank suddenly, and with a feeling of uncertainty, he looked at Ling Yun with both eyes, and even his breathing gradually became short. Never thought, after searching all night, I couldn't find the secret, but Ling Yun offered to provide 11? You know, in order to find out the secret of Urahara Kazuki, even Aizen has been thinking about it day and night. What do you think? Ling Yun didn't answer immediately, but paused deliberately. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Under the night, the soft moonlight shines through the gaps in the windows and reflects on the floor of the underground secret room, revealing a bit of eeriness. Bang bang. The sound of the heartbeat could be heard clearly, and Ichimaru Jin's facial expression gradually became serious. After a while, when the atmosphere reached the boiling point, Ling Yun finally revealed the answer. Silver, the next thing you have to do is very simple, that is, take the information I want to tell you back to Aizen verbatim. That's it. As for other things, Ling Yun frowned slightly, and deliberately lowered his voice to remind. You don't have to worry about other things so much. I understand. Ichimaru Jin nodded half understanding. His mood at this time has already reached the throat, and Ling Yun will be what Ling Yun tells him. Ling Yun continued. Actually, Urahara Kazuki's research is a special experiment about soul fusion, but this experiment has reached a critical bottleneck period, and he himself is very troubled by it. Ah? Soul fusion? Ichimaru Jin was stunned for a moment. Captain Ling Yun, what is the real face? The breathing rate accelerated again, and Ichimaru Jin's heart shook violently. Soul experiment. It sounds like something big is about to happen. How should I explain it? Ling Yun stretched out his hand, rubbed his chin slowly, and after thinking for a moment, he slowly explained. Actually, the principle of this experiment is not difficult, that is, the souls of Shinigami and Rukongai residents are fused under specific experimental conditions to produce some special soul crystals to obtain unexpected effects. But, Urahara Kazuki's identity, after all, is the captain of the 12th Division and the founder of the Technology Development Bureau. Naturally, it is impossible for him to attack his colleagues and residents of Rukongai, so this is the problem he really needs to worry about. In the next few minutes, Ling Yun told Ichimaru Jin everything he knew. But all of this is actually the opposite. After all, Urahara Kazuki used virtual souls to carry out special soul experiments, but the answers told were the souls of Shinigami and Rukongai residents. The reason why I say this is entirely because of Aizen. After all, as a time traveler, Ling Yun knows all about Aizen, so this trick can have a very good confusing effect, and it is also more convincing. As for the follow-up progress, whether Aizen will believe it or not, it doesn't matter about Ling Yun. The only thing Ling Yun can be sure of is that with Aizen's character, he will definitely continue his own research, so as to perfect the incomplete Hogyoku already in his hands. Sure enough, after listening to Ling Yun's speech, Ichimaru Jin suddenly realized, and asked hesitantly, I probably understood, but Captain Ling Yun, I still have a question. Let's talk. I understand the truth, but why do you tell me so much? After all, Aizen is a person with extremely deep intelligence and scheming, he is not even inferior to Urahara Kazuki. Once he grasps the key information and conducts research, I am afraid that his future achievements. In the end, Ichimaru Jin even swallowed heavily because of too much worry. He couldn't imagine it anymore. Silver, I can understand your concerns, but to be honest, you worry too much. Ling Yun shook his head and said softly disapprovingly, "Even if everything you said happened, in fact, this is exactly the result I want to see, and the worst 307 plan will not be in any danger." After finishing speaking, he glanced out of the window, and his eyes fell on the moon in midair. Ling Yun waved his hand, then changed the subject, smiled and said, "Okay, it's getting late now, you should go back to the 5th division quickly, or you will be exposed when someone comes later." Then, "Where's the corpse?" Ichimaru Jin stood there hesitantly. "As for the corpse, they are already dead, and there is no way to destroy the corpse here, so let others investigate as nothing happened." Ling Yun gave a brief answer and then did not explain too much. After the words fell, he did not see any movement, and the figure disappeared instantly in place. Ichimaru Jin was left alone in place. Ichimaru Jin remained silent on the spot. He glanced at the corpse on the ground, recalled the conversation with Ling Yun just now, sighed, and then disappeared. Just like that, as the conversation between the two ended, the underground secret room returned to its previous state, as if nothing had happened before. Only a cold corpse was left behind. Chapter 230 The Real, Strongest Brain. It was the worst day of her life and it was captured on camera. Reclama after the conversation between the two ended, as Ling Yun disappeared in an instant, the underground secret room returned to its former calm. Under the night, Ichimaru Jin remained silent on the spot, and the atmosphere in the room was terribly oppressive. Soul fusion. Ichimaru Jin's eyes flickered, he glanced at the corpse on the ground, recalled the conversation with Ling Yun just now, sighed and then disappeared. Just like that, as the conversation between the two ended, the underground secret room returned to its previous state, as if nothing had happened before. Only a cold corpse was left behind. Soon after, in the middle of the night, in the team building of the 5th division, in the room where the vice captain was. With a creak, the door opened, and Ichimaru Jin quietly walked into the room. Ever since he left the 12th squad, he has rushed all the way here without looking back. It is not too much to describe it with the words, "Can't wait." Ichimaru Jin can't wait to report to Aizen as soon as possible. Sure enough, as soon as he walked into the room, Aizen's voice came immediately in front of him.
"Silver, you're finally back. It seems that you've been delayed a little longer than the original schedule." Aizen, who was sitting in front of the wooden case, put down the team affairs documents in his hand, and slowly raised his head and said.
Under the black-rimmed glasses, although there was no change in facial expression, there was an undetectable strange light flashing deep in Aizen's dark pupils. Apparently he was skeptical about Ichimaru Jin's late arrival.
"But this is also normal. After all, this man is Aizen, he is a ruthless person who plays with the whole Gote 13 in the applause, so it is not surprising that he is cautious." Facing Aizen's dignified expression, Ichimaru Jin's performance was very calm. He squinted his eyes and smiled, showing the iconic fox smile, and then walked slowly towards the wooden case.
With a unique Kyoto accent, Ichimaru Jin chuckled and said, "Vice Captain Aizen, why'd I feel that your eyes are strange, but don't doubt me because of it." This sentence is more of a joke. Immediately, the atmosphere eased up a little. Ichimaru Jin came to the wooden case, and then explained, "It's not like you don't know where the Technology Development Bureau is. There is a special gate set up there. It is not so easy for me, an infiltrator, to get in." "Yes." Aizen raised his eyebrows lightly, and asked without changing his face, "Then how did you get in?" "Oh my god. Vice Captain Aizen, what happened later was a bit of a coincidence. You really might not believe it." The smile on the corner of Ichimaru Jin's mouth deepened. He sat down familiarly, spread his hands and shrugged his shoulders, and said, "I was wondering how to get in, but who knew that I suddenly met the 5th seed of the 12th division, the one named Yamanaka Field. Poor guy, he happened to have something to go back to that underground secret room, so I took the opportunity to sneak up behind him and kill him." Regarding Ichimaru Jin's explanation, Aizen didn't have too much doubt, and quickly nodded expressionlessly, and then asked, "Silver, do you have any unexpected gains?" For the death of an officer, Aizen naturally wouldn't take it too seriously. After all, the position of Yamanaka Tianye is just an ordinary 5 seats, not to mention the 5 seats of the 12th squad, which is even more insufficient compared to other positions. Therefore, in Aizen's eyes, his death is like trampling an ant to death. It's just a trivial thing. The conversation between the two continued. The news of Yamanaka Tianye's death is just a small episode. Seeing that Aizen was unmoved, Ichimaru Jin then confessed, "Vice Captain Aizen, you may not believe it, if you haven't been there in person, you can't imagine how messy Urahara Kazuki's site is. It's boring, there are all kinds of instruments everywhere, the air in the city still smells of pungent chemicals. It's really not easy to find Urahara Kazuki's hidden secret in such a bad situation." Ichimaru Jin counted from the beginning to the end in a self-comforting tone. Immediately afterwards, Wei Mi's eyes curled up, and the corners of her mouth curled up a bit. "But, fortunately, I was patient and searched for a while, and finally found a related notebook." "Oh, finally heard the desired news." Aizen's expression relaxed a little. Under the black-rimmed glasses, the corners of Aizen's mouth were slightly upturned, revealing an intriguing arc, and he said with a light smile, "Silver, let me tell you about the contents of that notebook." Tisk tisk tisk. "Vice Captain Aizen, if you know the content recorded above, You will be very interested. Ichimaru Jin's eyes flickered slyly. Immediately afterwards, a key word was revealed, the soul of Shinigami. Although when he uttered these words, Aizen felt a lump in his heart. The originally calm state of mind finally had obvious ripples. The soul of a Shinigami. Although it was only a few words, it immediately attracted Aizen's attention. In fact, as early as a long time ago, when Aizen was still an officer, he had already had a careful plan and started collecting Shinigami souls very early. This is also the reason why he would take people to Rukongai to collect the remaining souls everywhere. And this is one of the triggers for the destruction of Matsumoto Rangaku. But at that time, Aizen hadn't produced half-finished Hogyoku yet, so their understanding of souls was not as deep as it is now, and their mentality was naturally different. But now, hearing what Ichimaru Jin said, Lee Darren immediately guessed what happened next. Silver, Urahara Kazuki's secret is to fuse Shinigami's soul together, right? I didn't expect him to go this far. Aizen took Ichimaru Jin's next line with emotion. Yes, he was really emotional from the bottom of his heart. After all, soul fusion, especially the soul of Shinigami, is forbidden in the Soul Society, and anyone who violates it will commit a felony. But never expected, Urahara Kazuki made it this far. Thinking of this, Aizen once again raised his vigilance against Urahara Kazuki, his mind and IQ. He had to admit that he underestimated the other party. Urahara Kazuki's IQ is definitely not inferior to her own, even revealing her true self. The Real Soul Society's Strongest Brain, Chapter 231 Time Exposure. Urahara Kazuki's secret is to fuse Shinigami souls together, right? I didn't expect him to come to this point, Aizen said with emotion. Yes, he was really emotional from the bottom of his heart. After all, soul fusion, especially the soul of Shinigami, is forbidden in the Soul Society, and anyone who violates it will commit a felony. But never expected, Urahara Kazuki made it this far. Oh, Captain Aizen, I had the same reaction just now. After all, the news is too shocking. Ichimaru Jin narrowed his eyes and echoed. Aizen's reaction was somewhat beyond his expectations. It was the first time for Ichimaru Jin to see Aizen show such a shocked expression since he joined the 5th team. For this reason, he silently gave Ling Yun a thumbs up in his heart. Never thought, in the end, it was my master who gave me the strength to actually fool Aizen over. After getting the desired windfall, Aizen showed a satisfied look, but he was still a little vigilant, and then asked, 100, silver, in addition to the content just mentioned, the research diary of Urahara Kazuki, didn't you mention anything else? For example, the difficulties encountered in the experiment, etc. Speaking of the last part, Aizen deliberately emphasized it again, which shows that his mentality is vaguely anxious. However, in response to his question, Ichimaru Jin waved his hand resolutely, and replied helplessly. No, the problem clearly recorded in it, I am afraid that only the soul of Shinigami is not close. 17. Yes. Hearing this, Aizen's mouth curved slightly, showing a meaningful smile. That's really great, it seems that his experiment has not been able to break through. Silver, the whole process except for the 5 seats of the 12th team, have you met anyone else? Of course not. Ichimaru Jin shook his head and said with a nonchalant smile, Vice Captain Aizen, you can rest assured that no one has found my trace, otherwise how can I escape unscathed? Indeed. Aizen pondered for a moment, nodded silently, and praised, Silver, you did a good job this time. Ariel, Vice Captain of Aizen, please skip the polite words. Ichimaru Jin folded his hands together, pretending to be innocent and pouted, but, I took a big risk this time, do you think about rewarding me next time? Looking at his appearance, Aizen not only did not feel disgusted, but returned to his previous appearance. Under the thick black-rimmed glasses, there was a gentle smile. Aizen nodded. Silver, then as you wish, let's ask Tusen to drink at the izakaya in Runlinon. Tusen Kanami. Ariel. That blind man. Ichimaru Jin hesitated for a moment, showing embarrassment. To be honest, Ichimaru Jin is not very cold about this crying blind man. So he spread his hands, and with a rather displeased tone, he simply admitted directly, Vice Captain Aizen, sorry, but I'm not very fond of that guy. After speaking, he continued to lean against the corner, deliberately putting on an indifferent attitude. Silver, if you don't like it, forget it, then don't call it Tusen. Aizen looked at each other calmly. Okay, let's say it like this. Ichimaru Jin responded indifferently, and then changed the subject. Vice Captain Aizen, I'll go back now that it's getting late, otherwise it won't be good for Captain Hiriko to find out. Hiriko Shinji, okay, you can go back for now, it will be very troublesome if you were suspected by him. As always, with a gentle smile, BBBE, but when the name, Hiriko Shinji, was mentioned, Aizen had a disdainful tone in his words. The conversation between the two finally ended, and Aizen was left alone in the room. The candlelight placed on the wooden case reflected on his face, reflecting a shadow full of conspiracy. Aizen's eyes flickered, and he seemed a bit cold, and no one knew what he was thinking. The screen shifts. On the other side, Tien Irfan's team building. Shihouin's family dinner was over, and after a whole night of carnival, the 3 Urahara Kazuki who went to participate finally rushed back to the 12th squad from Shihouin's mansion. However, when they returned to the Technology Development Bureau, they found a sad thing. Yamanaka Field was killed. As a result, the 3 people who were originally drunk suddenly encountered a bolt from the blue. The original drunkenness has also disappeared. Someone broke into the 12th Division without authorization and killed Yamanaka number 5. We must find out the murderer. As Urahara Kazuki's adjutant, Saruhayori's reaction was not so calm. Caused a huge sensation, so Gotei 13 is fried immediately. Who could it be? With Yamanaka's character, he should not offend anyone. Kuretsuchi Miyuri was also very depressed. After all, he was one of his acquaintances. He couldn't figure out why Yamanaka was killed. I didn't expect to be killed here. After a lot of tangling to no avail, Urahara Kazuki launched Tianting Luokan without hesitation. She roared with tears in her eyes, and her anger reached the boiling point. Urahara Kazuki said nothing, staring at the dead body with a sullen expression on his face. Yamanaka Tianye, one of his confidants, has been assisting his research for many years, and is a reliable subordinate with no bad intentions. Late at night, the skies over Gotei 13 were clouded with suspicion, and even the air was filled with a hint of conspiracy. As the first to open the door, the first to find the body. How is this going? Yamanaka Tianye, the 5th member of the 12th squad, why was he killed suddenly? In the middle of the night, quickly pass this news to the senior management of Gotei 13, Captain Shinigami. The death of the Yamanaka Field was like an earthquake. It is very likely that this is the case, otherwise how could the murder be committed at this time? Damn it. I heard that tonight's Shihouin aristocratic family banquet, the top executives of the 12th Division all went to the banquet tonight. Could it be that this is a premeditated murder? Chapter 232 Speculation about the murderer. Late at night, the skies over Gotei 13 were clouded with suspicion, and even the air was filled with a hint of conspiracy. The death of the Yamanaka Field was like an earthquake. Caused a huge commotion. In the 12th Division team building, above the long aisles, footsteps sounded continuously one after another. The captains and chief officers from various teams, because of the news of Yamanaka Tianye's death, were moved, and the night when they should be sleeping became noisy because of this. At this time, the 12th Division team building, in front of the gate of the Technology Development Bureau. All the members of the 12th Division surrounded this place tightly. My God! What the hell is going on here? Yamanaka Field 5 seat was killed? As the vice captain of the 12th squad, Hiyori Seipe was the one who was the least calm among them. Due to her short stature, she is not very conspicuous in the crowd. With his arms crossed on his waist, Madara's small face full of sparrows showed a frightened expression. Yamanaka Tianye, although he doesn't communicate much with him usually, he still has a good impression of him. But who knows? It's really an innocent disaster. I didn't expect to go to a banquet, but he was hurt by someone. Although his temper is usually a bit violent, he can even be described as savage. But looking at the dead body of Yamanaka Tianye, Hiyori Sarupe showed a bit of true temperament. Her eyes reflected the bloodline on the ground, and there was a twinkle of regret and pain in her eyes. Just when she was feeling emotional, a hand suddenly stretched out from behind, and put it gently on her shoulder. Urahara Kazuki comforted. In Hiyori, people cannot be resurrected after death, so you don't have to blame yourself too much. The top priority is to collect clues and find the murderer as soon as possible. Urahara Kazuki's performance is the complete opposite of Ape Hiyori. For the death of his subordinates, although he also felt heartbroken, he was not immersed in grief. Urahara Kazuki took a calm breath, and then conducted a careful analysis with a clear mind. In addition to ordering the team members to seal off the scene, he also personally collected clues. And Kuretsuchi Miyuri, who was the 3rd seat, also did not wait on the sidelines. He directly ignored Hiyori, his eyes continued to explore the surroundings, and he also joined the queue of collecting clues. The originally messy underground secret room was quickly turned upside down. It's a pity that after working for a long time, Byte still didn't find anything new. After a while, footsteps were heard one after another from the corridor outside. More than a dozen figures appeared one after another. The first to arrive here are the powerful veteran captains, Yunohana Retsu, Kiraku Shunsui, Jashiro Yukitaki, etc. Look at the murder scene, the bloodline left on the ground, and the dead body in the Yamanaka Field. Sister Wa and the others frowned. Kill. In the 12th Division, he committed a crime openly. This is a big deal. Kiraku Shunsui frowned and asked, Captain Urahara, have you found any suspicious clues? Well. Urahara Kazuki turned around, looked at Kiraku Shunsui, and shook his head helplessly. King Band Leader, we met at Shihouin in the middle of the night, so there was a gap of 2 or 3 hours during this period, and the 5 seats of Yamanaka were killed during this period, so I think this is a well-planned murder. But in terms of clues, I haven't found them yet. After speaking, Urahara Kazuki was discouraged, with a trace of guilt on his face. That's tricky. Beside Kiraku Shunsui, Jashiro Yukitaki, who was his old partner, said solemnly, can't Captain Urahara find some clues from the body? The moment this sentence fell, everyone's eyes instantly shifted to Captain Yunohana Retsu. As the captain of the 4th team, Yunohana Retsu has superb medical skills and a heart to save lives and heal the wounded. Before everyone could open their mouths, she took the initiative to go to the side of the corpse for a full body examination. So, under the gaze of everyone, Yunohana Retsu gradually approached the corpse. Looking at the position of the corpse's chest and the wound pierced by the stab, Sister Wa couldn't help frowning. Ask for flowers. She was silent for a few seconds, and then made a careful analysis. From the wound alone, the cause of death is very likely to be pierced by someone from behind with a sharp knife. It can be clearly judged that the person who did it was an experienced man. People. After hearing Sister Hua's words, everyone present fell into deep thought. To be able to do everything Sister Hua said, the first condition is to sneak in here, and then approach the Yamanaka field quietly, and give a fatal blow without emitting Ryatsu. No doubt, those who have the ability to do all this are only the top 3 seats of each team, and even the captain-level Shinigami. So here comes the problem. Who is the murderer? As one of the few insiders of this murder case, Ling Yun, who has been on the sidelines, finally expressed his opinion. People who can do this can basically be locked in the 5 seats, so in fact, our investigation target is very simple, just find out the whereabouts of the 5 seats to the captain of each team. Sure enough, his proposal was quickly approved by everyone. But here comes the problem. Although Ling Yun's idea is very good, there is actually another problem before everyone. After all, the jingling court is so big, and Gode 13 has a large number of people. It is not an easy task to find out everyone's whereabouts in a short time. After all, everyone can lie, ever since, it was temporarily deadlocked again, and the entire Technology Development Bureau building was silent. At this time, Kyoraku Shunsui suddenly thought of another possibility. He stroked the beard on his chin and said, "You guys think? Could it be a hypocrisy?" However, as soon as the words fell, they were immediately refuted. Without saying a word, Yunohana Retsu immediately refuted his point of view, shook his head and said in a deep voice, "Impossible. I have carefully identified it just now. The wound on the corpse is definitely the trace produced by Zanpakutō. So, I think the killer is Shinigami from Gode 13. Invincible Chapter 233. Kyoraku Shunsui's proposal was refuted as soon as it was proposed. Yunohana Retsu, who had just seen the wound, immediately emphasized firmly, "Impossible, I have carefully identified it just now. The wound on the corpse is definitely the trace produced by Zanpakutō. So, I think the killer is Shinigami from Gode 13. Yunohana Retsu's determined tone was like a thick haze, which immediately dropped the atmosphere below freezing point again. Everyone fell into silence again, and not long after, the captains of the other teams came to the 12th team one after another, including Aizen, the adjutant of the 5th team, of course.
Aizen and Hiroko Shinji walked into the room one after the other. When they saw the two of them appear, a subtle arc that was hard to detect appeared on Ling Yun's handsome and flawless face. As one of the insiders, Ling Yun knew clearly in his heart that the murderer behind Yamanaka Tianye's murder this time was Aizen, who appeared to be gentle on the surface. But well, he didn't make any statement, just said a few words from beginning to end, pretending to be nonchalant, looking more like a melon-eating crowd. After all, Ling Yun knows the bottom line of Aizen, and Ling Yun knows that a person as unfathomable as Aizen will naturally not reveal his flaws. Not much has changed next. There was a lot of discussion among the people, and everyone made guesses, but there was still no way to come to a firm conclusion. Aizen, listening to everyone's discussion, sneered silently in his heart. The cause of Yamanaka's death, before rushing to the 12th division, he had heard Ichimaru Jin describe it in detail. So everything that happened in front of him seemed even more ridiculous in his eyes. In the end, the night was doomed to nowhere due to lack of accuracy. And this murder case, due to its great impact, was ordered by the captain to be dealt with secretly in Mobile LY under the 2nd division. Since it was too difficult, the 12th squad has increased the strength of the guards, guarding the Technology Development Bureau building all the time, and Urahara Kazuki seems to be alert to something, and is almost inseparable. Gradually, as time went by, this murder case became a mystery. The murderer was never found. Time flies. Half a year passed in a blink of an eye. Originally, if there were no accidents, Soul Society would be like the past hundreds of years, and the ordinary and reunion days passed day by day. 2. Murder happened again at Rukongai. Once again, a strange murder occurred, and it happened in a remote place in Rukongai, which also made Captain Yamamoto furious. At this time, the atmosphere in the team building of the first team reached an extremely dignified state. Under the call of the old man, all the current captains of Gode 13 rushed here almost immediately, and the team office suddenly became very lively. In the first team's team affairs room, Captain Yamamoto was in the center, standing on his crutches with both hands. That majestic gaze, like a sharp knife, kept sweeping back and forth in the room, which contained a deep meaning that people could not guess. And endless rage. To be fair, although the Soul Society has an ancient history of nearly 2,000 years, in the past few hundred years, except for the rebellion of the predecessor Kenpachi, it seems that there has not been a large-scale turmoil. Even Rukongai occasionally has some accidents, but most of them can only be described as small troubles. But this time the murder in Rukongai is not trivial. Captains, you must have understood the general situation before you arrived here? On the old face of the chief captain, there was an expression of wrath. The majestic gaze was like a sharp blade, once again sweeping across the faces of each captain, and finally settled on Kenpachi of Ghost Rock City. The 11th team, as the fighting team of Gode 13,
has the primary responsibility to ensure the stability of Jinglingting and even Rukongai. Under such a premise, Kenpachi, as the captain, of course bears the primary responsibility. JJ. The last assassination incident has just passed, and the tragedy happened again on Rukongai's side. As the captain, Kenpachi, the Ghost Rock City, must be blamed. What? The captain's majestic gaze prevented Kenpachi from Oni Rock City from raising his head, and he didn't have the courage to look at the old man at all. He only felt that his face was hot, and he couldn't help but want to bury his head down. Ghost Rock City Kenpachi, as the captain of the 11th squad, you should not be able to shirk your responsibility for this matter, right? After staring silently for a while, the chief said slowly. Yes. Captain, you are right. This time it is indeed my fault. It is my restraint that caused the tragedies to happen one after another. The old man's words of reproach, Kenpachi of Ghost Rock City heard clearly, immediately nodded and apologized. As long as you know, Captain Yamamoto gave him a cold look, finally withdrew his gaze, and ordered, listen up, everyone, not just the 11th team, from this moment on, every team must some people have been dispatched to patrol the streets of Rukongai around the clock to prevent further expansion of the situation and avoid more tragedies. Yes. All the captains nodded in unison. The entire team room was silent, only the voice of the old man echoed. Including Ling Yun, even Hiriko Shinji, who is usually idle, kept silent at this time, so as not to touch the captain's brow at this time. In this way, under the continuous teaching of the captain, after the old man completely vented his anger, the emergency regular meeting of the captain finally came to an end. However, since then, the security level of Godai 13 has been raised to the highest level. But 3.2 pays a price for that. Vibe. That's right. The whole Godai 13 atmosphere fell into inexplicable panic. Since the murderer has not been identified, people are almost in a panic. The Shinigami are caught in a strange circle, and the atmosphere becomes very depressing for a while. And after that day, there were more Shinigami in various blocks of Rukongai. Even those blocks with the lowest sequence numbers and the most chaotic order are no exception. Headed by the 10th and 11th squads, the rest of the squads also drew their manpower, and were stationed in different blocks in Rukongai according to the deployment of the captain. DJ. Such large-scale patrols did not prevent the continuation of the situation. Not long after that, there was another major upheaval in the Soul Society, the destruction of the pioneers. Chapter 234 The Truth is Revealed. Exploring the truth behind celebrities' radiant smiles. Reclama previously, under the signal of the captain, each division of Godai 13 sent some members to carry out large-scale patrols in Rukongai. But such a move did not prevent the continuation of the situation. Not long after that, there was another huge turmoil in the Soul Society, the destruction of the pioneering troops. Back in time. Go back to the night before the first team was wiped out. Rukongai, block number 67, is a remote and uninhabited area. Looking around, there are some mutilated clothes everywhere. It seems that there was a murder not long ago. At the same time, around the scene of the crime, about 20 figures kept walking back and forth. They uniformly dressed in deadly costumes, sealed off the scene of the crime in an orderly manner, and at the same time carefully observed and collected information. If there are other Shinigami on the scene, they will definitely recognize their identities immediately. Build a team first. The so-called Pioneer Team is the advanced team for each accident investigation. This is a special team of 11 that is not affiliated to any team, and is responsible for the maintenance and investigation of the crime scene. But, this time the first team was built but encountered a problem. After arriving at the scene of the crime, they have been collecting for a while, but they have not found any valuable clues, just like other murders that happened before Rukongai. Make them feel helpless. Among the crowd, one of the captains shook his head, and sighed with a sad expression on his face. What's the matter? It's been a long time and I still haven't found anything. If I just go back to Jingling Court empty-handed, I'll be fine. One of the pioneers said with a sad face. He sighed. It's not an option to go on like this. If you can't find a reason to explain it, I'm afraid you will be blamed by the Yamamoto team again when you go back to Jinglingting. That's right, the truth of the series of cases that happened before has not been found out until now, and the captain is already very dissatisfied with this. This time, if he can't give a satisfactory answer, it is estimated that all of us will be punished. The captain of the team, a Shinigami named Asai, rubbed his brow wistfully. Thinking of the stern face of the captain, his body couldn't help but tremble. Who can resist the old man's anger, however? At this moment, there was a sudden noise from the woods not far away. Immediately afterwards, two figures appeared one after the other. Are you, Aizen Vice Captain, Ichimaru third seat? After hearing the noise in the woods, the gazes of all members of the Shanzao team immediately shifted to those two figures. They immediately recognized their identities. Aizen, Ichimaru Jin. It was okay to see Ichimaru Jin, but the appearance of Aizen surprised everyone. The pioneers stepped forward one after another and asked in astonishment, Vice Captain Aizen, Seed Ichimaru, why are you two here? You shouldn't be. Yes. The reason why the pioneers have doubts is purely because of the unreasonable appearance of Aizen and the others. Under normal circumstances, Jinglingting will send personnel to rush over only after the team members who want to make feedback, and the first to bear the brunt will be the members of the 11th team. So now comes the problem. How could the members of the 5th Division appear first? However, Aizen chose to ignore everyone's doubts. With graceful steps, he slowly came to the crowd, and asked meaningfully in his eyes, "Pioneers, your duty should be to find clues to give the captain a satisfactory explanation, right? Now, the explanation you want will be available soon." The moment he finished speaking, Aizen showed a meaningful smile on his gentle face. When seeing this smile, the pioneers all felt chills on their backs, and there was a vague feeling of saying no, an eerie feeling. "Vice Captain Aizen, I don't quite understand what you mean by that sentence." After a moment of silence, although his mind was full of doubts, the leader of the first team still calmed down and asked patiently. After all, standing in front of him was Aizen, the most famous good guy in Jingling Court. Although he felt that something was wrong, he didn't want to think about it in a bad way. So he subconsciously chose to trust Aizen. "Why, you seem to have doubts about me?" Facing the captain's question, Aizen asked blankly, "If there is no order from the captain, do you think I would have come here recklessly?" No. Vice Captain Aizen, you misunderstood, I didn't doubt what you meant." Sensing the impatience in Aizen's words, Captain Shanzao quickly waved his hands to explain clearly, and said with an embarrassed smile, "It's just because you appeared too suddenly, so we didn't react for a while, and there was no offense or suspicion, you mean." "Really? Why did I observe a trace of suspicion in your eyes?" Aizen seemed not satisfied with the explanation of the pioneer captain, but frowned slightly. At this time, Ichimaru Jin, who was silent on the side, interrupted impatiently, and said in disgust, Oh, Aizen Vice Captain, isn't it just some experimental materials? There is no need to explain so much to them." "What? Experimental material?" Ichimaru Jin's words immediately caused an uproar. The captains of the first construction immediately exploded, and asked back with a look of shock, "Ichimaru Jin 3 seats, what did you mean by those 500 sentences just now?" "Oh," Ichimaru Jin narrowed his eyes and yawned casually. "Don't understand? What I was talking about just now is you, and your group is the experimental material, just like the group of Rukongai residents who died in the past." "What? Dead Rukongai residents? Could it be that?" As if they had learned a shocking truth, the expressions of the pioneering team members changed one by one. First the experimental material, then the Rukongai resident. Ichimaru Jin's implication is already apparent. "What do you think?" Ichimaru Jin didn't deny it. Instead, he showed his iconic fox smile. He stared at the pioneer captain with a smile, just like a lion majesty ready to attack, staring greedily at his prey. This expression immediately made the pioneers doubt their lives. He never expected that the murderer, who had been searching for several months, was actually hiding beside him. Even more unbelievable, Aizen, Ichimaru Jin, if they didn't take the initiative to confess, no one would believe that they would be the murderers. "So, stupid pioneers, when did you have the illusion that we are sent by the captain to help?" After Ichimaru Jin was silent, Aizen's voice sounded. In the calm and steady voice, there is absolute confidence, and there is a clear killing intent in it. Chapter 235 Aizen's Conspiracy. "So, stupid pioneers, when did you have the illusion that we are sent by the captain to help?" After Ichimaru Jin was silent, Aizen's voice sounded. In the calm and steady voice, there is absolute confidence, and there is an obvious killing intent in it. When things got to this point, Aizen didn't intend to hide his intentions anymore. At this moment, his temperament completely changed. He was no longer as gentle and kind as before, but became ruthless instead. If you didn't see it with your own eyes, you can't imagine this scene at all. Indifference, gentleness, two completely different temperaments, unexpectedly appearing in the same person, and blending with each other almost flawlessly. This moment, the pioneers seemed to have an illusion. The one who appeared in front of them was not an ordinary vice captain, but a master standing above the clouds. "Why, in your eyes, I feel a trace of fear." Aizen took a step forward confidently, speaking with a shocking demeanor, accompanied by an incomparable haki. Under the black-framed glasses, his gaze was as sharp as a sharp knife, hitting the deepest part of everyone's heart. Facing Aizen's stare, the Harbinger team members who were originally suspicious either lowered their heads or shifted their eyes, but none of them dared to look at Aizen. The mentality of inferiority arises spontaneously, and they have a sense of shame in their hearts, as if they have blasphemed the gods above them. Just a look. The souls of the pioneers were deeply shocked. Standing in front of Aizen is like hovering near the gate of hell, and fear lingers in my heart like a nightmare. Aizen's aura almost made them despair. "Blue. Vice Captain Aizen, why did you do this? Aren't you our colleague?" Despite being overwhelmed by fear, the pre-created captain was the first to recover and questioned in a trembling voice. "I don't want to admit it, and I can't believe it. Although Aizen's temperament has taken on a new look and has become extraordinarily strange and cold, but after all, the previous image of good old man is too deep-rooted, so that we are still unwilling to do all of this. After all, over the past 100 years, Aizen has won the recognition of most people. Humble, gentle and approachable. Why did these labels on Aizen disappear overnight? What the hell happened in it?" For a time, there was too much confusion and fear permeating the hearts of the pioneers. Their heads went blank, and they all stood there in a daze. And in this gap, Aizen had already come in front of them, and his sharp eyes went even further. "What are you planning to do?" The approach of Aizen forced the pioneers to take a step back. Originally, the hand holding Zanpakutō was trembling constantly, facing Aizen's cold gaze. The pioneers felt extremely desperate in their hearts, and even had a feeling that their souls had been seen through. Although the number of people occupies an absolute advantage, the momentum is one-sided. I don't quite understand, why do you want to distance yourself? If you really know that I am the murderer, you should take the initiative to attack me. The more the pioneers retreated, Aizen took a graceful step, showing a crushing momentum. The pioneers were speechless. Aizen's aggression made them feel at a loss, their minds went blank, and there was only one action left, stepping back tacitly. Aizen continued to sneer. I see, it seems that you are afraid that when you approach me, my figure will suddenly disappear from your eyes, right? If that's the case, it's nothing but superfluous troubles, because all of this is only based on the same strength. With these words, Aizen's expression changed again. The corner of his mouth curled up in a sarcasm. Stop trying to struggle. The distance between me and you is meaningless. This sentence is like an iron rule, completely condemning the fate of the pioneers. Next second, the Bakudo chant comes from Aizen's mouth. Thundering wagons, gaps in spinning wheels, after despair the lights gather and make 661 of Bakudo, the prison of 6 branches of light. Even if it was performed in the state of singing, the pioneers still couldn't react because they were too scared before. One after another, light sheets appeared out of thin air around their bodies, binding their bodies firmly. The more you struggle, the stronger you become, until you can't move at all. Hateful. Aizen. Let us go. What on earth do you want? Once the captain finds out, you will definitely receive the most severe punishment. The captain first scolded and tried to use the captain to intimidate Aizen, but such a move was meaningless. No, to be precise, it's just their wishful thinking. Aizen has been indifferent from beginning to end. Vice Captain Aizen, it's time to shut up these test subjects. Ichimaru Jin squinted his eyes and said with a gloating smile. After such a long delay, the good show is finally about to begin. When Ichimaru Jin's words fell, the pioneers suddenly fell silent at the same time. Their faces suddenly changed, becoming more and more ferocious, and then roared and roared even more ferociously. Crazy, painful, struggling. What, dancing hands and feet, foaming at the mouth until losing control of emotions. The pioneers actually entered the hollow stage. Under the darkness of night, the wails kept ringing out, which was particularly ear-piercing in the dark, adding a touch of horror to this remote area. Due to the existence of the 6-stick light prison, the pioneers couldn't move their whole bodies, just like fish on a chopping board. The hollow process is painful, but they can only bear it all the time, suffering from indescribable torture. As the culprit of everything, Aizen watched all this happen, Qian Wanghao, indifferently, but his expression under the black-rimmed glasses did not change at all, as if he was looking at a group of tiny ants. Aizen Vice Captain. Ichimaru Jin squinted his eyes, and his schadenfreude smile deepened. This time I found a treasure. The souls of the pioneers are much more valuable than ordinary Rukongai residents. Yin, you are right, this attack has brought a lot of rain. After hearing Ichimaru Jin's words, a curve finally appeared on Aizen's cold face, and he smiled lightly. Don't worry, this good show has just begun. With the pioneers as bait, the next step is it's the turn of Gode 13. Vice Captain Aizen, if the old man hears you say that, he will definitely die of anger. Ichimaru Jin showed his trademark fox smile, but even though he said so, his expression was as frivolous as ever. Obviously he didn't take this matter to heart, even the captain was no exception. Chapter 236. The 9th squad is out. What is the most common plastic surgery in Korea? Reclama. Silver, you are right, this attack has yielded a lot. After hearing Ichimaru Jin's words, a curve finally appeared on Aizen's cold face, and he smiled lightly. Don't worry, this good show has just begun. With the pioneers as bait, the next step is it's the turn of Gode 13. Vice Captain Aizen. If the old man heard you say that, he would be so angry. Ichimaru Jin showed his trademark fox smile and spoke with a teasing tone. His expression was as frivolous as ever. Obviously he didn't take this matter to heart, even the captain was no exception. Then, Aizen reached out to touch his chest, and took out a light blue crystal from his clothes. The surface of this crystal has a faint fluorescent color, faintly exuding a gentle wave. The research results of the past few years are also Aizen's greatest effort secretly, which is formed by the fusion of the souls of countless Rukongai residents and the souls of Shinigami. That's right, this crystal is the prototype of Hogyoku. Different from the Hogyoku owned by Urahara Kazuki, the prototype of this Hogyoku in Aizen's hand has more gentle fluctuations due to the fusion of Shinigami's soul, but it still contains many defects. 667. So this is why Aizen will attack the pioneers, because only by incorporating more Shinigami souls can it help maintain the balance of the crystals. Immediately after, as the pioneers wailed in pain, Aizen injected Ryotsu into the Hogyoku prototype. Wang made a loud noise, and the prototype of Hogyoku erupted with a burst of blue light, and a special wave continuously gushed out of it, like a sea of kings, quickly engulfing the leaders of the event. What? As the blue light shrouded, the reaction of the pioneers became more intense. Not only did the expressions become stronger and more ferocious, but the howls were more than 10 times more painful than before. It was obvious that they were in the heart-piercing pain at the moment. This process lasted for a while and then ended. Due to the excruciating pain, even though these people are Shinigami with greater soul strength than the Rukongai residents, they still cannot withstand the pain of the hollow process. Aizen. You sinner. How dare you attack fellow Shinigami? One day your crime will be exposed. Be bag. Before dying, the leader of Shanzao held his breath and said the last sentence with complaints. If they could act, they would like to die with Aizen, but it is a pity that they are still unable to move until the moment of death. In this way, under Aizen's strong suppression, the first team was easily wiped out. Aizen Vice Captain. Oh, the soul strength of the first team is much more fragile than I imagined. I didn't expect them to die after just sustaining for a while. Ichimaru Jin squinted his eyes and shook his head pretending to be regretful. In fact, when he said these words, he had a gloating expression on his face. Apparently, the destruction of the first team, for Ichimaru Jin, was nothing more than witnessing the death of a group of ants. Aizen felt the same way. Looking at the clothes left on the ground after the corpse disappeared, Aizen stared at it coldly with no expression on his face, and there was no emotion in his dark eyes. This cold expression seemed to be looking at a few ants. After a while, he opened his mouth slowly, expressionless. Yin, do you think what they just said is right? Vice Captain Aizen, you mean, cheating? That's right. Aizen nodded noncommittally. Well, Vice Captain Aizen, how should I answer? Ichimaru Jin squinted his eyes, yawned with a smile, and then asked, I think it depends on what you think. Yes. Aizen's tone was still ruthless, his words did not fluctuate, and he said in a cold voice. Deceit. This kind of statement is completely nonsense. I never meant to lie, it's just that none of them understand my true face, that's all. Because of this, and because of too much ignorance, the death of the Shinigami itself is an established fact that cannot escape the past. Not to mention, when saying these words, Aizen deliberately paused, and a strange look flashed in the depths of his eyes. It's more meaningful to become my experimental subject and then contribute to Hogyoku's experiment than to remain unknown in Jinglingding until the end of 10 lives in an ordinary way? Although Aizen's voice was unremarkable, it sounded creepy, and the air around him suddenly plunged into freezing point. Under the darkness of night, his voice floated in the air, while on the ground were dozens of remnants of the deadly domineering outfit. Apparently the pioneers have appeared before. Jingling Court, the team building of the 9th Division. The first team was destroyed. An unbelievable sound resounded throughout the room. Such a group of powerful Shinigami. The current captain of Division 9, Muguruma Kensai, nicknamed Muscular Man, opened a secret order on the wooden case, and immediately jumped up in shock. This secret order was passed on by the first team, and it was an urgent secret order issued by the head of the team. After all, compared to ordinary Rukongai residents, their identities are real Shinigami, and each of them has strong combat capabilities, otherwise they would not be the first team to investigate accidents. This thing is simply appalling. Something big happened. Muguruma Kensai changed his usual calmness, and his tone became very hasty, and said in a deep voice. Do you still remember the murder case that happened a few days ago? The first team in charge of investigating and collecting evidence, the entire army was wiped out. Seba's outfit is a bit messy, his hair is fluffy and curled up, and he has a listless expression on his face. Chinchi, it's so early in the morning, why are you making such a fuss? Create a team first and destroy it. The dark circles around her eyes showed that she didn't sleep well last night. As if hearing an unbelievable doomsday event, Kuna Mashiro's head twitched, as if someone had poured cold water on him, and the whole person immediately became sober. This is an unprecedented event, DA. It actually disappeared silently last night? This means that the situation is serious to a certain extent. What? The first team is destroyed. At this time another lazy voice came from the corner of the room. The adjutant of Division 9, Kuna Mashiro, who has always been a bit mischievous, came to the troubled case while yawning. Chapter 237 Sneak Attack Time. Form a team first. Such a group of powerful Shinigami was wiped out quietly last night. This thing is simply appalling. Kenshi. I really hope this is fake news. Although I don't have much contact with them, the first team is a group of real Shinigami. As if hearing an unbelievable news, Kuna Mashiro opened his mouth wide in shock. His jaw was too surprised and almost dislocated. Nan, now is not the time to be surprised. The captain has already issued an order. Since the incident occurred in the area under the responsibility of our 9th team, we must rush there as soon as possible. Beneath the white feathers, on Muguruma Kensai's dark face, is a serious face. His personality is a bit impatient, and he was suddenly ordered by the captain, and this incident was about the glory of the 9th squad, which caused his emotions to fluctuate instantly. So, what are you going to do? Kuna Mashiro asked nervously. What do you think? Of course we set off right away. Muguruma Kensai rolled up his sleeves and looked at her with a frown. In case of any accident, Division 9 cannot bear the anger of the captain. Okay. Then I will notify the others immediately. Although he usually likes to joke casually, but at this juncture, Kuna Mashiro also realized the seriousness of the matter, and immediately responded seriously. Go. Finish the assembly as soon as possible, and be sure to arrive at the scene as soon as possible. Muguruma Kensai nodded, looking slightly tired. Originally, after the previous murders in Rukongai, under the dispatch of the captain, the 9th Division did participate in the patrol and security operations. DA. The responsibilities are different, the scope is different, and the 9th Division is only slightly involved in it. But this time it was completely different. Even the first team was wiped out, which means that the degree of danger of this tragedy is far more dangerous than any previous one, and its degree of danger can be imagined. So even Muguruma Kensai, as the captain of Shinigami, couldn't help but worry at this time. Afterwards, under the organization of the two, the 9th Division team was fully equipped, and soon set off towards the crime scene of the first team. Soon after, Rukongai, the scene of the murder of the pioneer team. There is not much difference between here and before. There are dozens of black deadly costumes left on the ground, and Aizen and Ichimaru Jin are standing not far away to observe secretly. The figures of the two cast a slanted shadow on the ground. Under the shining of the setting sun, the two of them drew two long oblique shadows on the ground. It's just that when looking at those deadly bullies, Aizen's eyes flashed obvious contempt, which also contained strong disappointment. The result of the failure of the Pioneers' Hollow means that their soul strength is not enough, and it also means that they must find the soul of the seat officer or even the captain-level Shinigami. This is the root cause of Aizen's disappointment. Vice Captain Aizen, you must be very disappointed. Ichimaru Jin shook his head, showing a characteristic fox smile. This time the hollow experiment failed, which means that we have been standing still in the past. Regarding his point of view, Aizen shook his head and denied his point of view. Silver, you were wrong. This experiment is not completely a failure. At least we have reconfirmed Hogyoku's intensity range. Ariel, if you think about it carefully, what you said is right. Ichimaru Jin squinted his eyes and smiled knowingly. Vice Captain Aizen, if you say that, you should keep an eye on the officers of Gode 13, and even Captain Shinigami, right? Just wait patiently. The death of the first team member will definitely cause a shock, and the captains and chief officers of other teams will rush over soon. Although it is not clear which team will come to support, Aizen and Ichimaru Jin are obviously not too worried. It seems that they are able to do everything with ease when they meet anyone. Then you can sit back and wait for the rabbit again. A cunning flashed in the depths of Ichimaru Jin's eyes. That's right. The corner of Aizen's mouth raised an arc, revealing a somewhat sinister smile. It's even better this way. Captain Shinigami, who threw himself into the net, is the best experimental material. Aizen's words were uneven, as if he was talking about a trivial matter. Time flies. A long time passed in the blink of an eye. The two people who were waiting suddenly turned their heads neatly and looked in another direction. Ask for flowers. There, at the originally empty intersection, there was a sudden sound of hurried footsteps, followed by several figures in deadly costumes. This is Team 9. Their eyes fell on the figures at the front, and Ichimaru Jin and Aizen quickly recognized each other's identities. That's right. This group of people who suddenly appeared as the senior officer of the 9th Division led by Muguruma Kensai. Oh my, I really didn't expect that Tusen's number 9 team would come. As if encountering a very pleasant surprise, Ichimaru Jin opened his eyes wide and revealed his blue pupils. There is an obvious look of surprise in it. Tusen Kanami, nicknamed the Blind Man, is one of the classic members of the Aizen trio. 0.0 to put it bluntly, he is one of Aizen's inner ghosts lurking in the 9th squad. Vice Captain Aizen. If Tusen also appears, then this good show will be interesting. I was still sleepy at first, but after seeing Tusen Kanami, Ichimaru Jin cheered up instantly, said with a smile. That's right. With Bankai's ability, if there is a sneak attack, no matter how strong Muguruma Kensai is, he will fall soon. Aizen responded with a firm tone. Tisk tisk tisk, a group of high-ranking officers, as well as the souls of the vice captain and captain-level Shinigami. This is the most perfect experimental material, and it is also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. Ichimaru Jin gloated and encouraged. Silver, don't you want to see how Captain Yamamoto will react if Ryotsu, a high-level member of the 9th squad, disappears together? Aizen asked with great interest. The tone of this sentence is still unhurried, highlighting the absolute confidence in controlling everything. The first team that was destroyed before, and the 9th team that appeared now, are also vulnerable in the eyes of Aizen. Aside from Kyoka Suigetsu's almost invincible 5-sense hypnosis power, Aizen has absolute confidence in playing with the entire Gode 13 just by virtue of his own power at the apex of Shinigami. As for why he and Ichimaru Jin appear here, it is also because of the 5 senses hypnosis ability, deliberately creating the illusion that I am still in the 5th team. Now it's the perfect sneak attack time. Chapter 238 Ling Yun appears. Exploring the truth behind celebrities' radiant smiles. Reclama, it was the worst day of her life and it was captured on camera. Reclama Aizen, Ichimaru Jin. The two are like beasts hiding in the dark, always waiting for the best opportunity to attack. The 9th Division led by Muguruma Kensai, although they were in the clear, knew nothing about it. When everyone arrived at the scene of the first team's crime, they quickly discovered the pile of deadly costumes scattered on the ground. Fist. It's all because you were too hasty when you left Jinglingding. I didn't even eat a bite of bean paste and glutinous rice balls. As an adjutant, Kuna Mashiro babbled along the way, making stomach rumbling noises. The atmosphere was obviously very oppressive, but after she complained, it immediately eased a lot. But the chief officers who followed behind showed embarrassing faces. Please. Now is an important moment to investigate the first team to destroy. Can't 960 put aside such things as starvation? Besides, even if Shinigami is hungry, he won't starve to death, right? When you're so nervous, please stop messing around, okay? Muguruma Kensai's face was full of black lines. Although he had long been used to the other party's habits, he couldn't help but clenched his fists. I want it, but others don't want it. Ignoring Muguruma Kensai's face, Kuna Mashiro is acting cute and coquettish on purpose. Spare yourself. Muguruma Kensai rolled his eyes angrily. In this way, amidst the dispute between the two, the chief officers of the 9th Division began to search, almost turning the surrounding area upside down. After half a sound, search results came out quickly. Captain Guangxi, we have already searched, but we have not found any suspicious clues except for the death suit scattered on the ground, an officer reported respectfully. Indeed. Apart from the dead bully outfits all over the floor, there are no other valuable clues. The first team seems to have disappeared out of thin air. Damn it. Who is the murderer? Although he had a premonition, Muguruma Kensai clenched his fists furiously after hearing the report from his subordinates. Visible veins appeared on his dark face, and he gritted his teeth unwillingly. In such a short period of time, we were able to quietly solve the first team, and did not create any signs of the Ryotsu riot. Only a captain-class Shinigami can do it. No way? After hearing Muguruma Kensai's speculation, Kuna Mashiro on the side was stunned and questioned. Kensai, it's impossible. Since the captain ordered martial law, except for the 11th team's Oni Rock City Kenpachi in addition, the captains of the various teams seem to have never left Jingling. Could it be? Did Kenpachi, Oni Rock, do this? Kuna Mashiro couldn't help lowering his voice when he said this inference. The atmosphere suddenly became weird. Quiet almost to the point of falling a needle. Ghost Rock City Kenpachi, in the previous captain's regular meeting, was easily crushed by the new official Ling Yun, and almost lost his face. Such a result is undoubtedly an unacceptable failure for those who bear the glory of Kenpachi, and it will inevitably breed jealousy and resentment. Under such a premise, the mentality of Kenpachi in Ghost Rock Castle is likely to be distorted. As absurd as it may sound, murdering the pioneers in Rukongai without permission is not impossible. Ghost Rock City. Muguruma Kensai shook his head without thinking, and denied. You are worrying too much, that guy doesn't have such strength, and he is obviously not the man behind the scenes. Then who is it? Could it be the captain? Kuna Mashiro made a timely joke. It doesn't matter, please contact the Technology Development Bureau, this matter is too weird, we must invite them to come and analyze the samples. Muguruma Kensai ordered. Yes, Captain. The chairman echoed in unison, then quickly acted. Collect dead bully equipment, arrange the canopy at the foothold, and contact the Technology Development Bureau. Everything is going on in an orderly manner. Listen. Before the 12th Division sends someone to take over, we must stay here closely. These deadly domineering costumes are the only evidence left. Muguruma Kensai pulled his throat and deliberately raised the volume a few octaves. However, unbeknownst to Muguruma Kensai, Aizen and Ichimaru Jin were watching secretly nearby. Besides the two of them, there was another figure hidden in another direction of the crime scene. The Black Death costume, the white Captain Haori, and a conspicuous 10 engraved on the back, Ling Yun. That's right. In addition to Aizen and Ichimaru Jin, Ling Yun also infiltrated this area. Although he did not witness the process of the death of the first team, but he was one step ahead of the 9th team. After all, he is a time traveler. Compared with Muguruma Kensai and others, Ling Yun is familiar with the plot early on, and knows that Aizen is behind the scenes to build the team first, so his mentality is much more peaceful. Hollow. It has matured to this point. It seems that the moment Hogyoku in Aizen's hands is more mature than I expected. Ling Yun said silently in his heart. And at this time, in an open place not far away, the originally calm sky was torn apart in vain, and then several huge figures rushed out of it. Roar. Runaway Manos Grande Jillian. These Jillians were huge in size, with hideous faces that looked very ugly, exuding an evil aura from their bodies, and their violent temperament was vividly reflected. Ho 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 ho, after all, Manos Grande is at the bottom of the hierarchy of life. Although stronger than the ordinary Jillian, these Manos Grande's spiritual intelligence is not high, and immediately caused a deafening 2.9 bang when it landed, and at the same time set off a sandstorm on the ground. And because of his natural hunting instinct, after sensing the spirits around him, Manos Grande quickly set his sights on a nearby playground, where several children were playing. Facing the sudden scene, the young children were stunned. They have never faced such a crisis. What kind of monster is this? We won't be eaten. It's over, we're all dying here. The kids almost peed in terror. Due to the tranquility in recent years, and the block number is not too late, they grew up in a stable environment since they were young, and they had never seen Shu at all beforehand. Not to mention the even more murderous Manos Grande. Chapter 239 Hisagi Shuhei. What kind of monster is this? I. We won't be eaten. It's over, we're all dying here. The kids almost peed in terror. Due to the tranquility in recent years, and the block number is not too late, they grew up in a stable environment since they were young, and they had never seen Shu at all beforehand. Not to mention the even more murderous Manos Grande. Among them, there was a naked boy in a black suit. Unlike other children who fled, he rarely showed his unwavering will. Even though his body was a little heavy due to fear, and he was almost unable to escape in time, the boy still encouraged his companions. Don't be afraid, there is still time to run, don't panic. After the words fell, he dragged and tugged, and fled with a few friends. Seeing how desperate he was, his little friends were infected one after another, and everyone fled desperately, taking advantage of Manos Grande's ferocious fangs to escape from these 10 open spaces. 11. This is Gotei 13's Shinigami? After escaping from the original open space and coming to the scene of the first team to fight the crime, I suddenly saw Muguruma Kensai and those high-ranking officers under his command. The group of kids immediately figured out who they were, Shinigami. Great, I met Shinigami, and I'm finally saved. There was a strong light in the black-haired boy's eyes, and he felt like he was grasping at straws. And the moment the children appeared, Muguruma Kensai and Kuna Mashiro also discovered their existence. It's strange, why a group of children suddenly appeared here, something is wrong. That is, Manos Grande Jillian. Muguruma Kensai sensed for a moment, and immediately noticed Manos Grande's pursuit. The originally dignified face immediately became gloomy. First, the inexplicable group that formed the team first, and now a group of Manos Grandes suddenly appeared. Muguruma Kensai suddenly had a strong sense of uneasiness in his heart. However, Kuna Mashiro was in a completely different mood. Instead, she was in a happy mood, dancing, and cheered in unison. Wow, Manos Grande, that's Manos Grande. It's the first time I've seen Manos Grande with my own eyes. Bye. Still in the mood to cheer this time, I'm really speechless to you. For Kuna Mashiro's performance, Muguruma Kensai sighed amorally. He didn't even bother to reprimand the other party, and after waving directly, he rushed towards the direction where the group of children were. What's wrong? Shinigami! Save us! While running wildly all the way, the black-haired boy kept calling for help, but because he couldn't stand firmly, he accidentally fell down. At this time, several other friends had already run away, while Manos Grande Jillian behind him was getting closer and closer, and he was about to catch up. Death is infinitely close. The black-haired boy closed his eyes in despair, he had completely given up struggling. However, at the critical moment, Muguruma Kensai just arrived, and the tall figure blocked the black-haired boy, completely protecting him behind him. Don't be so desperate, you can't die today with me. An understatement of a sentence contains absolute self-confidence. Muguruma Kensai draws Zanpakutō, unleashing the power of Zanpakutō Shikai directly. Let's fly to ashes and smoke, the earth-shattering wind. The Shikai language of Zanpakutō comes from the mouth. As the voice fell, the Zanpakutō in his hand transformed. The original slender blade was covered with a layer of cyan luster, and then turned into countless sharp cyan threads, exuding powerful fluctuations. Under the control of Muguruma Kensai, the blue silk circled around his body, swinging back and forth regularly. And at this gap, Manos Grande Jillian just came in front of him, so the wind blade took advantage of the situation and whizzed past, gently slashing across the body of each Manos Grande. Silently, one hit kills. With the explosion of all the wind blades, Manos Grande Jillian's body exploded instantly, and was wiped out in just a moment. For the black-haired boy, it was originally a life-threatening crisis, but after Muguruma Kensai rescued him, it easily turned into a crisis. Witnessing this scene with his own eyes, the black-haired boy was deeply shocked, and couldn't help but stand there in a daze. Hey, little devil, why are you still standing there? Why don't you hurry up and laugh? You are saved. After killing Manos Grande with ease, Muguruma Kensai put away Zanpakutō freely, turned around and came to the side of the black-haired boy. He reached out his hand on purpose, patted his shoulder, and said in a teasing manner. That. Shinigami. Thank you. But before he left, he turned his head deliberately, looked at Muguruma Kensai carefully, and found an obvious mark on his body. I see. He was still in shock until this moment. Muguruma Kensai waved him to leave quickly. Neither he, nor Muguruma Kensai, will know that this is the last meeting. Hisagi Shuhei nodded knowingly, then turned around and walked towards his companions. Silently remembering these two numbers in his heart, Hisagi Shuhei finally left here with his companions. Hisagi Shuhei. That's a nice name. As for the next meeting, it will be 100 years later. Hinoki. Hisagi Osamu 653 soldiers. Little ghost, what's your name? Muguruma Kensai nodded, and then asked back. It's very brave of you to be able to persist until the last moment. 6 and 9, what do you mean? Otherwise, do you think I have time to deceive you, a child? The black-haired boy came back to his senses, and thanked him tremblingly. The black-haired boy looked up, looked at Muguruma Kensai, and said his name with some hesitation. It was hard to calm down, and when Muguruma Kensai said this, Hisagi Shuhei immediately went wild again. No? Muguruma Kensai tilted his head, then showed a smile of approval, and comforted with a smile. Okay, Manos Grande has all disappeared, you take other children and leave here, now this area is the most dangerous in Rukongai the place. Chapter 240 Bankai, Yanmo Cricket, exploring the truth behind celebrities' radiant smiles. Reclama the appearance of Isagi Shuhei is just a small episode. With the departure of him and his friends, this matter came to an end soon. And after Manos Grande Jillian disappeared, the Black Cavity Channel not far away also disappeared, and this area regained its tranquility, as if nothing had happened beforehand. Kenshi. Before I was still playing with the mentality, but now I also feel that things are a bit weird. The timing of the appearance of those Manos Grande just now is too coincidental. Kuna Mashiro changed from the previous naughty, showing a serious face after saying these words, he fell into silence. It is said that a woman's sixth sense is the most accurate. Her intuition told her, the appearance of Manos Grande was not accidental, and there must be a mastermind behind it. You realize now? Muguruma Kensai gave her an annoyed look. The death costume on the ground, and the remains of Manos Grande's disappearing spirit seeds all gave him a feeling of uneasiness, and this feeling has not appeared for a long time in the past many years. Even though he has captain-level strength and is one of the best among everyone present, he still maintains a state of full vigilance at this moment. 5. If there are more accidents, it will be difficult to deal with this number alone. At the same time, not far away, the hiding place of Aizen and Ichimaru Jin, the two also witnessed all this in secret. Oh my god. Aizen Vice-Captain, Zanpakutō Duatifeng, really deserves to be one of the most famous wind Zanpakutō. Manos Grande was wiped out in an instant, it is really terrible. Although he spoke in a frightened tone, but the expression on Ichimaru Jin's face didn't change much from before. Obviously this is just a hypocritical lie. Silver, such an experimental material, is the most perfect material. A rare wave appeared in Aizen's eyes. Muguruma Kensai, the captain of the 9th squad, is the experimental material he has been longing for a long time. If the hollow experiment can be carried out on him, it may be possible to break through the bottleneck that has been stagnant for a long time, so as to grasp all the secrets of hollow in one fell swoop. But he is very vigilant now, I'm afraid it's not easy to attack. Ichimaru Jin squinted his eyes and chuckled, deliberately fanning the flames from the sidelines, and did not take Muguruma Kensai seriously in his words. The dignified captain of Division 9 was treated as experimental material. If Muguruma Kensai heard this sentence, he would definitely go berserk immediately with his personality. Night fell. It was night in a blink of an eye, and due to its remote location, this area also became dim. The light was hazy, the visibility was not high, and there was silence all around. In order to ensure the integrity of the crime scene and ensure that the evidence will not be damaged, under the order of Muguruma Kensai, Kuna Mashiro and several officers were ordered to be stationed here together. After the tents were set up one after another centering on the place where the dead fighter outfits were scattered, a total of 6 people including Muguruma Kensai patrolled and guarded according to different time periods. Deep Yoruichi was silent. The first rotation passed quickly, and this time the person in charge of patrolling was Tusen Kanami and the other 2 officers. Only, just halfway through the patrol time, there was a sudden scream outside the resting tent. The painful wailing sound was exceptionally loud in the dark night, and it clearly entered everyone's ears. At the same time, it awakened Muguruma Kensai and Kuna Mashiro who were sleeping. What happened? When they hurried out of the tent and were about to check the surroundings, they found that Tusen Kanami and another officer had fallen unconscious on the ground. Only one chief officer named Togodozamon is still standing. Todo, what happened? Why did Tusen Kanami and the others fall? Muguruma Kensai asked anxiously, his eyes fixed on Tusen Kanami. Team. Captain, little. After uttering these words intermittently, Todozamon finally fell down too. And the moment he fell to the ground, he looked at Muguruma Kensai with obvious pain and horror in his eyes, as if he had encountered an unbelievable accident. Muguruma Kensai was silent. He was originally asleep, and although he had always been on high alert, he still couldn't accept seeing 3 of his subordinates fall with his own eyes. Why were the 3 subordinates attacked? Who was the murderer? For a while, Muguruma Kensai's mind was filled with many distracting thoughts. His mood suddenly became extremely heavy. Kensai, there are only the 2 of us and Kasaki left now, we must contact the Technology Development Bureau immediately. As fear spread, Kuna Mashiro couldn't help curling up, leaning against Muguruma Kensai and tremblingly said. Team leader. How about the 3 of us back to back to prevent someone from attacking from behind? The chief officer named Lichung suggested. This method also works. Muguruma Kensai was quick to take up the advice. However, just as they were about to move, Tusen Kanami, who had fallen to the ground not far away, suddenly stood up at an extremely fast speed, and then raised the Zanpakutō in his hand. Bankai, Yama Cricket, a murderous voice came out instantly. In just a split second, Tusen Kanami's aura rose rapidly, exuding extraordinary powerful fluctuations, and this aura was not even weaker than that of the captain-level Shinigami. Li Qianhao. As for his Zanpakutō Suzumushi, the position of the handle of the knife flickers and spreads out round and round, like white notes shining with aurora. Under the wave of Tusen Kanami, The white light circle continuously spread towards the surroundings, and soon formed a substantial black light curtain covering the bodies of Che Guangxi and Juku. With 1-against-3 situation. On one side are the 5 seats in the team, and on the other side are the 2 captains and the seats. Although at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers, Tusen Konami has an absolute advantage thanks to Yanmo Cricket's Bankai. That is because, once shrouded in darkness, it is equivalent to falling into a cage, and will face endless darkness. There is no light, no hope, as if you are in a bottomless abyss. Such a fate will only face the only ending, death. Invincible Chapter 241. Deprived of sight, deprived of hearing, deprived of smell, deprived of taste, leaving only touch. This kind of torture is painful and inescapable. Although at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers, Tusen Konami has an absolute advantage thanks to Yanmo Cricket's Bankai. Once shrouded in darkness, it is equivalent to falling into a cage, and will face endless darkness. There is no light, no hope, as if you are in a bottomless abyss. In such an end, all face the only ending, death. In the end, what happened? Being able to become the captain of Shinigami naturally has a wealth of combat experience. But being in the dark and deprived of sight, hearing, smell, and taste, Muguruma Kensai immediately became less calm. Under normal circumstances, Shinigami fight by instinct. After all, everyone has their own inherent fighting style, which is also the experience accumulated over the years. All combat experience is invalid in Yanmo Cricket's Bankai. Because of sensory deprivation, Muguruma Kensai and others were like headless flies, unable to adapt to the endless darkness for a while, and could only stand there and struggle in confusion. Who the hell? Get lousy out. In the black barrier, Muguruma Kensai's roar was constantly passed back and forth.
Sadly, with all senses stripped away, he can't even hear his own roar.
In desperation, like a lunatic, Muguruma Kensai pulled out Zanpakutō from his girdle and waved it around continuously, releasing the blue silk unique to Duodifeng to protect himself. Only by doing so can we find the only remaining sense of security. However, he is in an absolute disadvantage after all, and this self-protection method is of no help at all. Holding Suzumushi in his hand, Tusen Konami stood directly opposite Muguruma Kensai. The pair of eyes under the black eye patch looked straight at Muguruma Kensai's body. One in the light, one in the dark, Muguruma Kensai's crazy moves, in the eyes of Tusen Konami, are extraordinarily funny. Despite the continuous wind and wind blade protection, Tusen Konami easily found the opponent's flaw, and swung Zanpakutō without hesitation when he found the right opportunity. Prickly. After the crisp tearing sound, Zanpakutō Suzumushi's blade penetrated Muguruma Kensai's body. This mighty captain of Division 9 suddenly became sluggish. Hateful. Muguruma Kensai vomited blood, clutched his wound and staggered, as if he might fall down at any moment. Taking advantage of this gap, Tusen Konami swung his sword again and knocked Kuna Mashiro and Kasaki to the ground between the fire and light stones. In less than a few minutes, the entire senior team of the 9th Division was wiped out. Muguruma Kensai. Don't you want to know who I am? Now let you get your wish. After throwing the bloodline off the blade, Tusen Konami raised a sly smile. He seemed to have foreseen the other party's next expression. Pain, shock, disbelief. It is conceivable that Muguruma Kensai's emotions will completely fall into despair. Next second, Tusen Konami's arm slowly lowered, driven by his will. The black curtain hanging above his head quickly dissipated. The soft moonlight fell from the sky and once again fell on Muguruma Kensai's body. The latter's deprived sensibility was restored again, and he saw Tusen Konami in front of him for the first time. No way. It's you, Tusen. As expected, Muguruma Kensai's eyes widened in astonishment, with an expression of disbelief on his face. At this time, his head seemed to have suffered a violent impact, and Wang's head suddenly became blank. In Muguruma Kensai's impression, Tusen Konami is an excellent subordinate who is low-key and honest, never conflicts with others, and always fulfills his duties. At least Muguruma Kensai always thought so. JJ. Why are you facing yourself with a knife? BBFI, Captain. No, Muguruma Kensai. This is not a hallucination. Everyone's death is related to me. Tusen Konami held Zanpakutō in his hand, and his words sounded extraordinarily cold. The two are more like strangers who have never met, and the original affiliation relationship has disappeared. Muguruma Kensai's brows were throbbing with blue veins, and he gnashed his teeth and roared angrily. Why are you doing this? Why? This question is really ridiculous. Facing Muguruma Kensai's questioning, Tusen Konami sneered disapprovingly. Muguruma Kensai, I think you haven't recognized the situation clearly. I never regarded you as the captain. Muguruma Kensai's eyes widened in astonishment. Could it be that all these years of affiliation are fake? Confused, Tusen Konami sneered, and explained coldly. In my eyes, only the vice-captain of Aizen is qualified to be my captain, and the others are not worthy at all. Blue. Aizen vice-captain. Muguruma Kensai only felt wave after wave, and the strong impact made him unable to slow down at all. And it is also accompanied by strong incomprehension and confusion. He never expected that the sneak attack in the night was originally related to the first team, and now it even involves the vice-captain of Aizen of the 5th team. What the hell is going on with all this? But at this moment, there was a sudden noise from the nearby woods, and two figures came out one after the other. It is Aizen and Ichimaru Jin. Aizen, Ichimaru Jin. After seeing the appearance of the two clearly, Mugaruma Kensai couldn't help screaming. Mugaruma Kensai. All the doubts in your mind, you must want to find an answer at this time, right? Aizen walked gracefully, and gradually came in front of the two. At this time, on his gentle face, there was an elusive and strange smile. Against the background of the night, it looks extraordinarily infiltrating. Aizen. So you're the mastermind behind the scenes? After being shocked again and again, Mugaruma Kensai finally figured it out. Aizen, Ichimaru Jin, and Tusen Kanami are a team, and they are responsible for the group destruction of the first team and the Jupan team. That's right. All you have to do is to execute my order, and it's too late for you to realize it now. Aizen looked at Mugaruma Kensai's gaze, as if looking at a perfect experimental material. Take full control of everything. Chapter 242 Desperate Mugaruma Kensai. Test. So you're the mastermind behind the scenes? After being shocked again and again, Mugaruma Kensai finally figured it out. Aizen, Ichimaru Jin, and Tusen Kanami are a team, and they were responsible for the destruction of the first team and the ninth team. That's right. All you have to do is to execute my orders. It's too late for you to realize now. Aizen looked at Mugaruma Kensai's gaze, like looking at 10 perfect real lid materials. At this time, on his gentle face, there was an elusive and strange smile. Against the background of the night, it looks extraordinarily infiltrating. Nonsense. Aizen. What nonsense are you talking about? Tell Lousy clearly. Mugaruma Kensai suppressed the severe pain of the wound, roared at the top of his lungs, and stared fiercely at Aizen. Anger, despair, remorse. At this point Mugaruma Kensai's emotions were mixed. He couldn't help but regret bringing Tusen Kanami here. If he had known that Tusen Kanami was an insider, he would never have brought the senior members of the 9th Division to this place. It's a pity that there is no regret medicine in the world. Even if Mugaruma Kensai regrets it in his heart, he is powerless to change everything now. The partners around him fell down one after another, even the Lieutenant Kuna Mashiro was no exception, and he himself was seriously injured and might fall down at any time. Wants to fight against the Aizen trio on his own. Undoubtedly a fool's dream. However, ignoring Mugaruma Kensai's snarl, Aizen's expression remains unchanged from beginning to end. In those dark eyes, there was an expression of Furui Wubo, just looking at Mugaruma Kensai quietly, taking a panoramic view of the other party's ferocious expression because of anger. Aizen said indifferently. Mugaruma Kensai, no matter how much you don't want to believe it, the facts are now in front of you, and nothing can be changed. Damn it, Aizen. Don't be too arrogant. Mugaruma Kensai endured the severe pain, his body trembling and swaying, gnashing his teeth and roaring. Once the captain knows the truth, Gotei 13 will definitely punish you. Gotei 13? After hearing these words, Aizen's indifferent eyes flashed an obvious look of contempt, and said with a sneer. Mugaruma Kensai, I think you still haven't figured it out. The reason why I took the initiative to show up, do you think I will still be afraid of Gotei 13, or even the power of the captain? The implications of these words are obvious. For the captain, for Gotei 13, Aizen did not pay attention. The natural self-confidence seemed to be engraved in his bones, and it was revealed with every word, hitting the deepest part of the opponent's heart like a sharp knife. Mugaruma Kensai felt a lump in his heart, and his emotions suddenly fell to the bottom. At this moment, his only emotion was despair. Mugaruma Kensai. From this moment on, all the secrets you just knew can no longer be said. Facing Mugaruma Kensai's desperate gaze, Aizen took out the pill from his arms. Buzz buzz. The half-finished Hogyoku, glowing darkly in the moonlight. When the light reflected on his face, Mugaruma Kensai only felt a tingling pain on his face, and his already injured body became more and more uncomfortable. Oh my god. Ichimaru Jin squinted his eyes and smiled lightly, showing his trademark fox smile, and asked maliciously, Captain Aizen, Captain Kensai is also our colleague after all. Would it be too cruel to attack him like this? Silver. It doesn't matter about colleagues, it doesn't matter about identity. From the moment he saw Hogyoku, he was destined to become Hollow's experimental material, Aizen replied blankly. What? Hollow? Hollow? Mugaruma Kensai's eyes widened desperately. He originally thought that the Aizen trio was just a simple betrayal, but he didn't expect that Hollow would be involved now. This kind of thing has violated the Soul Society's prohibition. Even Kuretsuchi Mayuri, a scientific madman, would not dare to risk any research related to Hollow. Aizen, why? Captain Kensai, from now on, close your eyes and experience the process of Hollow. Ichimaru Jin's expression remained unchanged, and a sly smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and his words sounded extraordinarily pervasive. There was only one night before and after, and not even one night passed. From the high-ranking captain of the 9th Division to the victim of Aizen's Hollow experiment, Mugaruma Kensai's identity has undergone an arrogant transformation in a short period of time. Ask for flowers, despair, helplessness, grief. After learning many truths, his emotions completely collapsed. However, ignoring his expression, Ichimaru Jin and Aizen continued to talk to themselves. Ichimaru Jin praised with a smile, "Captain Aizen, I really want to congratulate you. Not long ago, I said that the soul strength of the pioneer team members was not strong enough. Now I got the soul of the captain level Shinigami as a material. Tonight is really rewarding." "Silver, do you even think so? It's all thanks to Tusen's help. Without his sneak attack, things wouldn't have gone so smoothly." Aizen showed a rare smile. Obviously, harvesting such an experimental material as Muguruma Kensai is of great help to the advancement of the hollow experiment. Blue. Aizen, I will definitely stop your crime. When his consciousness was on the verge of collapse, Muguruma Kensai pulled up his strength and roared at the top of his lungs. "Stop me?" Aizen shook his head disapprovingly, then showed a contemptuous smile, and then did not continue the conversation with Muguruma Kensai, but concentrated on injecting Ryotsu into Hogyoku. Clatter. With the constant infusion of majestic Ryotsu, the glow that emanated from Hogyoku arrived in ultimate soon. Really? Everything is as Aizen said. Muguruma Kensai had no way of resisting, but could only feel all the pain with his own eyes, witnessing the light emitted by Hogyoku pouring into his body. Time passed by every minute and every second, and he couldn't make any struggle. After just a few seconds, Muguruma Kensai felt like his soul was about to be torn apart. He roared to the sky with a hideous face, and a sound of wailing resounded throughout the suburb. "Oh my god, Vice Captain Aizen, Captain Kensai seems to be in a lot of pain. I really can't bear to see him like this," Ichimaru Jin said with a mocking tone. Although he said so, his expression was the same as before, still an expression of indifference, as if he was watching a farce. It's obvious. Whether it's Aizen or Ichimaru Jin, they don't care about Muguruma Kensai's life or death at all. They only care about the final result of Hollow this time 8. Chapter 243 Necessary conditions for Hollow time passed by every minute and every second, but he couldn't make any struggle. After just a few seconds, he only felt that his soul was about to be torn apart. Muguruma Kensai had a ferocious face and kept roaring to the sky, and the wailing sound resounded throughout the suburb. "Oh my god, Vice Captain Aizen, Captain Kensai seems to be in a lot of pain. I really can't bear to see him like this," Ichimaru Jin said with a mocking tone. Although he said so, his expression was the same as before, still an expression of indifference, as if he was watching a farce. Obvious. Whether it's Aizen or Ichimaru Jin, they don't care about Muguruma Kensai's life or death at all. They only care about the end result of this hollow. Vice Captain Aizen. Looking at the 6-3-5-7, Sha Kensai struggling in pain, Ichimaru Jin always had that iconic fox smile. He squinted his eyes and smiled softly. "The process of hollow will be over soon, what shall we do next?" Aizen turned his body sideways, glanced at him blankly, and responded indifferently. "Yin, what do you think? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it would be a pity to miss it, so we must see the results of the experiment. But if this is the case, if the time delay is too long, there may be accidents." As soon as Aizen's voice fell, the voice of Tusen Kanami came from behind. Unlike Ichimaru Jin, the relationship between him and Aizen is more of a subordinate. What's more, the current Tusen Kanami is just an ordinary officer of the 9th Squad, so he is careful when speaking in front of him, for fear that he may say a wrong sentence. After all, at the current time point, he is just an ordinary chief officer. If it weren't for this Hollow Knight incident, I'm afraid Tusen Kanami would have to wait a long time to make his debut. So in front of Aizen, the blind man is a younger brother. However, after hearing Tusen Kanami's words, Aizen frowned in displeasure. He turned around indifferently and asked, "Yeah, I don't quite understand what you just said. Are you afraid of Gode 13? Or do you not believe in my strength?" Question. In Aizen's eyes, this is something that cannot be allowed to happen. He has always been higher than the sky, not only despising Gode 13, but even the captain. Fear? There is no need for that kind of thing to appear in the world? Master Aizen, I didn't mean that. After all, I have been following Aizen for a while. Even if Tusen Kanami is blind, he already knows the basics of Aizen's character. This superficially nice guy is actually a murderous demon. Once the bad luck of Aizen is encountered, the best end is to build the first team and the 9th team. Really? The moment the voice fell, an indescribable horror Ryotsu suddenly emanated from Aizen's body, and rolled towards Tusen Kanami's body forcefully. Unable to struggle, unable to resist, no chance of begging for mercy. Tusen Kanami was crushed by Ryotsu in an instant. Master Aizen. You misunderstood, it's not what you imagined, I absolutely obey your orders. Enveloped in Aizen's Ryotsu, Tusen Kanami suddenly became panting, and even breathing became extremely difficult. The huge disparity in Ryotsu makes him completely powerless to resist, and may even suffocate at any time. Oh my god. Captain Aizen, I think it's fine. I think Tusen is just a slip of the tongue. Mingming is much younger than Tusen Kanami, but Ichimaru Jin's tone is old-fashioned. Is that so? After hearing Ichimaru Jin's persuasion, Aizen finally relaxed his brows. He quickly put away Ryotsu, and his expression returned to his original calm, as if nothing had happened before. Obvious. Ichimaru Jin and Tusen Kanami have completely different positions in Aizen's heart. One can barely be counted as a partner, while the other is just an ordinary subordinate. The use value of the two is very different. Well, with Aizen putting away Ryotsu, Tusen Kanami can finally breathe. The original feeling of suffocation made him break out in cold sweat, and his heart was about to jump out every time he took a breath. And at this time, there was a painful wail from the side. It turns out that with the progress of Hollow, the senior management of the 9th Division headed by Muguruma Kensai has entered the most important stage of Hollow. With a ferocious face, he roared crazily, and kept foaming at the mouth. His whole body was soon covered by white bone substance. Apparently they're going to Hollow soon. Aizen nodded in satisfaction, and then added flatly, in addition to the conditions you just said, to stabilize Hollow, you must have a strong Ryotsu, and it seems that the lowest critical value is the vice-captain level Ryotsu. 1.9 silver, you are right, but there are a few things to add. Although their soul strengths are different, the essence of Hollow is the same. Muguruma Kensai and others did not disappear like the first team, but are about to enter the Hollow state. A coldness flashed in his eyes. Ichimaru Jin put away his smiling face, and his demeanor suddenly became indifferent. Vice-Captain Aizen, it seems that this experiment was an unexpected success. The experimental material at the captain level is really reliable, Ichimaru Jin said with a smile. The second is strong will, which should be easy to understand. Aizen's eyes fell on Muguruma Kensai, and he rarely took the initiative to praise. It is undeniable that his will is indeed very tenacious. Even if he was seriously injured, he still survived until the end, and he was also the last to start Hollow. That's right, the experiment was indeed successful, which also proves that our thinking has always been correct. Aizen rarely took the initiative to show a faint smile. The result is very satisfying. Ichimaru Jin blinked mischievously. Sometimes he likes this kind of bad humor. Captain Aizen, am I correct in explaining that? In this way, our goal in the future is very clear. That's why the first team disappears, but Kuna Mashiro and Muguruma Kensai don't. Indeed. Without exception, they are all pouring Shu's soul into another soul, and by breaking the restrictions between souls, the target can be sublimated to another level. Ichimaru Jin stood behind Aizen, sorted it out with his own thinking, and said unhurriedly, Rukongai residents, ordinary Shinigami team members, and later the pre-construction team, and the 9th Division officer in front of you. Hollow by Muguruma Kensai et al. Means he has mastered the necessary conditions for Hollow, which is an amazing breakthrough. Oops. Chapter 244 The Rescue of Jingling Court. Exploring the truth behind celebrities' radiant smiles. Reclama, Captain Aizen, am I correct in explaining that? Ichimaru Jin blinked mischievously. Sometimes he likes this kind of bad humor. Silver, you are right, but there are a few more things to add. Aizen nodded in satisfaction, and then added flatly, in addition to the conditions you just mentioned, you must have a strong Ryotsu if you want to stabilize Hollow, and it seems that the lowest critical value is the vice-captain level Ryotsu. That's why the first team disappears, but Kuna Mashiro and Muguruma Kensai don't. The second is strong will, which should be easy to understand. Aizen's eyes fell on Muguruma Kensai, and he rarely took the initiative to praise. It is undeniable that his will is indeed very tenacious. Even if he was seriously injured, he still survived until the end, and he was also the last one to start Hollow. So, after 11, our goal is very clear. A coldness flashed in his eyes. Ichimaru Jin put away his smiling face, and his demeanor suddenly became indifferent. Captain Class Shinigami. These people are their future hunting targets. Yes, this is the necessary condition for Hollow, and it is all clear now. Aizen nodded slightly, expressing his acquiescence to this statement. Afterwards, he glanced at the two of them respectively, and signaled Tusen Kanami and Ichimaru Jin to leave here with his eyes. That's because, after entering the process of Hollow, Muguruma Kensai and Kuna Mashiro's Ryotsu are mixed with the unique berserk factor of Hollow and Meino's Grande. As a result, the mildness that was characteristic of the original Shinigami completely disappeared. Ryotsu has undergone a reverse qualitative change. Obvious. Now is the best time to observe. Before leaving, Aizen deliberately stopped, and then looked back. A look of anticipation flashed in the dark pupils. He muttered to himself. At present, everything is under control, and I don't know what kind of combat power the captain-level Shinigami after Hollow will have. Let us wait and see. The other side. The screen returns to Jingling Court. Due to the previous request of Muguruma Kensai, the 6th seed of the 9th Division deliberately went to the 12th Division to request experimental samples from Urahara Kazuki and Hiyori Sape. For the sake of prudence, after some careful weighing, Urahara Kazuki decided to send her adjutant, the little sister Pei Hiyori, to go with her. Ever since, Xiao Taimei rushed from the Gode 13 team building to Rukongai in a hurry. That's where the 9th Division was wiped out. Time flies. Not long after the Aizen trio disappeared, after running all the way, Hiyori Sarupe finally arrived here. But when she arrived at the destination, seeing the situation here, her heart immediately turned cold. What the hell is going on here? Looking at the people who fell to the ground, an unbelievable and horrified expression appeared on the face of the little girl with Madara's tits. She, who never took anything seriously, had an unbelievable and horrified expression on her face. Especially after seeing Muguruma Kensai and Kunamashiro fell to the ground, the little girl's heart immediately stirred up a storm. Captain Kensai, and White. While talking intermittently, Sarupe Hiyori 893 desperately opened his eyes wide, looked at the two of them with hesitant eyes, and asked in horror, "What's the matter with you two?" For instinct's sake. At this moment, the only words in her mind are saving lives. Almost without thinking too much, she ran directly to where the two were, but at this time, another version changed. Roar. Without warning. The two people who were in the hollow state suddenly struggled. Immediately afterwards, the Kido bound to them, because they could not bear the brute force, disintegrated in the breath, and quickly turned into powder visible to the naked eye. Fist and growl. The two people in the hollow state have completely lost their minds. They roared and launched an offensive towards Hiyori. Chapter 245. The situation gradually out of control. Roar. Without warning. The two people who were in the hollow state suddenly struggled. Immediately afterwards, the Kido bound to them, because they could not bear the brute force, disintegrated in the breath, and quickly turned into powder visible to the naked eye. Fist and growl. The two people in the hollow state have completely lost their minds. They roared and launched an offensive towards Hiyori. Faced with the sudden attack, Seipe Hiri didn't think too much, and ran directly to Muguruma Kensai and Kunamashiro. After all, they're the only ones who have been together for many years. But she never expected that a scene that made her desperate happened. Roar. The two people in the hollow state suddenly swayed their bodies, and then instantly broke free from the shackles of the Six Paths Light prison, and the Six Paths Light sheets bound on their bodies also turned into powder. Throw your fist and smash it down, controlled by tyrannical emotions, even white hits as powerful. The head-on blowing wind blew away the bangs on both sides of his forehead, and Hiyori had to let out a muffled groan. Well, what the hell is going on? Why on earth did they get out of control? At this time, there were too many doubts and incomprehensions in her mind. But there was not much time left for her to think. After all, it is a captain-level Shinigami, even if its own combat power is not as good as the captain of the Shinigami, but the basic combat response is still available. Responding instinctively, Hiyori with a pockmarked face reached out to touch his waist, quickly pulled out the Zanpakutō, and then laid it neatly in front of him. She still underestimated the brute force of Muguruma Kensai and Kunamashiro in hollow state. When accompanied by a crisp sound, the Zanpakutō in his hand was repelled, and Hiyori Seipe's petite body was mercilessly knocked down to the ground.
At this time, the two running away on the opposite side roared and came in front of her. And when he saw the appearance of the two of them clearly, Hiyori Sarupe couldn't help exclaiming, "This. How is it possible?" That's right. There was a dumbfounded expression on the little girl's face. That's because. She saw a horrifying scene. The cold moonlight shone down with the night, reflecting on the faces of the two runaway Shinigami captains. Can be clearly seen. At this time, a substantial bone mask appeared on the faces of Muguruma Kensai and Kunamashiro. The whole body of the mask is white, with lines of red and black on it. Through the mask, you can see the pair of scarlet eyes, red and irrational, as terrifying as a wild beast. Bone-devouring beast. Even though he has experienced many incidents in the past, when this scene appeared before his eyes, Hiyori Sarupe still felt horrified. She froze for a moment, and murmured to herself in panic, "What the hell is going on here? Isn't this a mask that only Manos Grande has?" At this moment, she felt as if someone had poured a basin of cold water on her, and her whole body felt icy cold. Begging. No use. No matter how she shouted, the two who had lost their minds still did not respond.
Tread, tread, tread. The sound of heavy footsteps was particularly piercing in the hazy night. Due to excessive panic, Ape Hiyori's body and limbs were not as sensitive as they were at the beginning. She could only watch helplessly as the two kept approaching. The night was hazy and dead silent. The suburbs suddenly shrouded in a dead atmosphere. Roar. The brutal roar resounded through the area. They are both captains of Shinigami, but the other party is in a state of hollow rampage, so of course his strength is more than twice as strong as his own. Boom. Another blow. With a loud noise, Hiyori Sarupe's body, unable to resist the impact of brute force, crossed the air in the hazy night, and finally fell to the ground in embarrassment. Powerless to struggle, things had come to this point, and alone, it was obvious what would happen to Hiyori Sapaki. The same ending awaits her, hollow. At the same time. When Muguruma Kensai, Kunamashiro went to Rukongai, and the moment Reiatsu disappeared, Captain Yamamoto, who was far away in Seraiti, also sensed all this with the perception ability standing at the top of Shinigami. Originally, the captain was only holding a hesitant attitude, and did not continue to make new decisions decisively. But, when Reiatsu in Sapaki Hiyori weakened, the captain finally realized that something was not quite right. In other words, something big happened. Ever since, an emergency meeting was held in the first team building. Alarm! 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 Sirens soon spread throughout the entire Gotei 13 team building. Muguruma Kensai, Kunamashiro and others, on the way to rescue Rukongai, both of their Reiatsu disappeared for no reason. This is an unprecedented emergency.
This siren sounded with tension, resounding through every corner of Jingling Court, instantly making the atmosphere tense.
Under the night, everyone was in panic, either fidgeting or gathered in groups to discuss. I thought it was just an ordinary support. After all, the scope of Rukongai is too large. Bloody incidents often occur in some blocks with lower numbers, and the Shinigami of Gode 13 went to deal with it more than once. But never expected. This time the investigation accident will be so serious. You know, whether Muguruma Kensai or Kunamashiro, both of them are captain-level Shinigami. Could it be? Has something happened to the Shinigami who is as strong as the captain?
Okay, how terrifying is that enemy? As the siren sounded, it didn't take much time. The Shinigami captains quickly gathered in the first team. At this time, in the team affairs room of the first team, the captain Yamamoto stood in the first place. His wrinkled dark face was so gloomy that water could drip from it. And below him, except for Urahara Kazuki, the others stood neatly. Quote. Raising his eyes lightly, the captain's eyes were full of majesty, and he said in a deep voice. Everyone, according to the information sent back by the 9th Division, the camp headed by Muguruma Kensai suddenly lost contact, and even Reiatsu disappeared. And the specific reason is unknown. When he said the last few words, the captain's tone became extremely heavy. Obviously, even the strongest Shinigami in the millennium was still caught off guard at this time.
After all, this accident happened too suddenly. Chapter 246 End. Exploring the truth behind celebrities' radiant smiles. Reclama. Alarm. 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 Harsh sirens filled every corner of Gode 13. At this time, in the team house of the first team. Under the urgent call of the captain, except Muguruma Kensai and others who had already gone to Rukongai, almost all the others gathered in the house. The atmosphere is depressing. In the dark of night, people panic. Captain, what should we do now? How to do? Captain Yamamoto standing at the top, his wrinkled dark face seemed so gloomy that water could drip from it. He raised his eyes lightly, and in his majestic eyes, he scanned the entire room 483 times coldly, and said in a deep voice. The top priority is to start supporting as soon as possible. This is also the purpose of this emergency regular meeting. However, the moment the captain's words fell, boom. Without warning. Suddenly, inexplicably, countless bright lights appeared in every corner of the team building. No. Even Gode 13. What's going on? What happened? The sudden change suddenly caused a panic. Row is everyone present, each of whom is the high-ranking Captain Shinigami, who has experienced too many storms and waves in the past years. But, BBEH, in the face of sudden changes, even Captain Shinigami, even the strongest Shinigami captain in a millennium, was quite restless at this moment. The captain's face was extremely gloomy. Rukongai's accident has already caused a lot of headaches. Now what about these explosions? Everyone, listen to the order and disband immediately. Please return to your respective teams immediately to stabilize the situation, the captain ordered decisively. His intuition told him that things were getting serious. Gode 13 is likely to face ruin tonight. Yes. The captains nodded in unison. However, just as the group was about to disband, something unexpected happened again. Boom. 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 The beam of light from the explosion intensified. The powerful blasting energy directly broke through the team building, brutally destroying everything. Damn it. Because the energy is too powerful. Even the captain, at the moment he held Ryujin Jaka, still couldn't resist the impact of the energy wave. Boom. Bang. Under the gaze of countless astonished eyes. The figure of the chief captain flew upside down in such a weak way, and finally fell to the ground in a state of embarrassment. Even the strongest Shinigami in the millennium is like this. Not to mention, those young Shinigami captains present. Finally boom. 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 With more energy beams falling from the sky. Shinigami. At the same time, all things are destroyed and exploded. The Shinigami captains who plan to turn the tide. Urahara Kazuki, Unohana Retsu, Kyoraku Shunsui, and others fell in a pool of blood one after another, and the figures in the death costumes were quickly swallowed up. And the reason for all this comes from the out-of-control aura balance in the Lingwang Palace above the Jingling Court. Finally, that's it, the same brutal thing happened inside every corner of Gode 13. Not only that, the three realms were completely annihilated in this big explosion because of the out-of-control aura. This also means that everything in the Shinigami world is over. A large amount of spiritual power bursts, whether it is the Soul Society, Hueco Mundo, the Shadow Realm, or even the world where humans live. Shinigami, the chief officer, and the freshmen of Mailing Academy, almost none of them could escape the impact of the blasting energy. One after another disappeared. Nature has also become history. All members were wiped out by the blasting energy. With the complete imbalance of the aura of the three realms. It's not just the first team's team building.